Chapter 361. Then you should just take the examination. Under Apothecary Mu's lead, it didn't take long for them to arrive at a room. Please report that Apothecary Mu Yang requests for an audience. Apothecary Mu clasped his fist toward the apprentice guarding by the door. Yes. Knowing the other party's identity, the apprentice immediately went in to report his presence. A moment later, however, he returned with an apologetic look on his face. Teacher is currently discussing some important matters with an esteemed guest, so he isn't free at the moment. Apothecary Mu, you should return tomorrow. This matter is urgent. I really can't wait until tomorrow. Apothecary Mu shook his head. I hope that you can relay another message for me. Just say that I have something urgent that I require Apothecary Hong's help on. Since Liu Laoshi had made this request, the grade 4 pill formula must be extremely important to him. Otherwise, he could have chosen to purchase a pill instead. No matter the cost, Apothecary Mu was determined to help Xianxia on this matter. I'll try asking again. The apprentice nodded and walked in. Aren't you all apothecaries? Why? Seeing the sight before him, Xianxia was perplexed. Hong Yun and Mu Yangfeng were both apothecaries. One of them was a 3-star primary while the other one was a 2-star pinnacle. There wasn't a huge difference between them, so why was it so troublesome to meet the other party? The guild leader is already old, so he doesn't interfere in the affairs of the guild. At the moment, most affairs of the guild are handled by Apothecary Hong, and all of the apothecaries answer to him. Thus, his standing is much higher than mine. Because of this, it took me a great deal of effort before I managed to get you the permission to enter the library. Apothecary Mu explained. After hearing the other party's explanation, Xianxia finally understood the situation. Apothecary Hong Yun had always been an arrogant person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have reprimanded the other apothecaries despite not having met Xianxia and verifying the results of the test back in Xianxia Kingdom. Having surpassed the boundary which had trapped many other apothecaries had inflated his ego, and now, it was difficult for any apothecary to even meet him, much less ask him for requests. Liu Laoshi, when we enter the room later on, I'll have to trouble you not to say anything. Outsiders aren't allowed to access pill formulae easily, and I'm afraid that if you say that you're the one who wanted it, not only will you be rejected, it might even cause a whole string of trouble. Apothecary Mu instructed. UN. Xianxia nodded. Pill formulae were the treasures of the apothecaries, and they would never show it to outsiders easily. It was indeed a little inappropriate for a physician like him to ask for a pill formula from them. After waiting for around 2 incenses time at the door, just when they were about to reach the limit of their patience, the apprentice walked out. Apothecary Mu, please enter. However, our teacher only has a tease time. After that, he still has other matters to attend to. Thus, if there are any important matter to speak of, please do it fast. All right. Apothecary Mu nodded. The duo entered the room and saw Apothecary Hong Yun sitting on the center seat. Beside him was a young man who was leisurely sipping his tea. It was none other than the 1-star master teacher who, due to his fancy for Mo Yu, kept trying to prove his superiority before Xianxia back in the master teacher pavilion, the son of pavilion master Jiang Chen. Apothecary Mu, what urgent matter do you have to ask of me? Lifting up his teacup, he prodded at the tea leaves floating at the surface before turning to look at Apothecary Mu with a leisurely attitude. I have something that I need to trouble Apothecary Hong on. Apothecary Mu replied respectfully. I wish to ask for Apothecary Hong to request for a grade 4 pill formula for me. I will bear the fees for the transaction. Grade 4 pill formula. Apothecary Hong Yun frowned. You're just a 2-star apothecary. Why would you need that for? Clasping his fist, Apothecary Mu replied, I have others uses for it. However, Apothecary Hong, rest assured, I won't do anything that flouts the rules of the guild. Apothecaries were allowed to request for pill formulae, but they were forbidden from selling it or using it to conduct scams or any other immoral actions. Other uses for it? HMPH. Apothecary Hong Yun stood up, and with his hands behind his back, he walked up to Apothecary Mu and glared at him imposingly. As an apothecary, Attempting something beyond one's capability will not only not bring one glory, it'll even embarrass one. Your pill forging skill isn't bad, but grade 2 pinnacle pills are already your limit. Come back to request for a grade 4 pill formula after you can successfully forge a grade 3 pill. In his view, the reason why this fellow was asking for a grade 4 pill was because he wanted to try forging it to impress everyone. However, despite being unable to forge even a grade 3 pill, he was actually attempting to forge a grade 4 pill. That was nothing more than a waste of precious medicinal herbs. Not expecting the other party to react so vehemently, Apothecary Mu's face flushed. All right, you should leave now. With a dark complexion, Apothecary Hong tilted his head upward with a proud expression. I beseech you to help me request for it. The process isn't too bothersome, so it shouldn't pose much of a problem. It's just a small favor. Apothecary Mu tried once more. Regardless, they were both apothecaries of the same guild, and their ranks weren't too far apart from one another either. A grade 4 pill formula might be valuable, but Apothecary Mu had already promised to bear the price of it. Thus, it shouldn't be a big deal to apply for it. To be rejected on the spot and told such words placed Apothecary Mu in a very embarrassing position. Aren't my words clear enough? Given your current pill forging skills, you don't have the qualification to see a grade 4 pill formula. Apothecary Hong Yun flung his sleeves and said, I still have things to attend to. Apothecary Mu, you should leave. Then, ignoring Mu Yangfeng, Hong Yun turned to Jiang Chen and clasped his fist with a smile. Young Master Jiang, I'll be depending on you for Xianxia's side. Back then, I had benefited greatly from his guidance. You must introduce me to him. Don't worry, this is only a small matter. Senior Uncle Zhong is the senior of my father. After he's done with his 2-star master teacher examination, it won't be a problem for me to meet him. I promise to help you on this matter. Jiang Chen replied impassively. The reason why he felt hostile toward Zhongxian before was due to Mo Yu. However, after realizing that he wasn't interested in her and witnessing his grand feats, not only did the hostility he felt disappear, he even started to regard the other party as his idol. Then, I'll thank young Master Jiang in advance then. Hearing the other party agree to the matter, Apothecary Hong Yun's eyes glowed in excitement, and he hurriedly nodded. Even though his encounter with Zhongshu in Qianxian Kingdom was very brief, the other party's guidance had opened up new doors for him in the art of pill forging. It was precisely because of that that he was able to reach 3-star. If he could listen to another lesson from the other party, his pill forging skill might reach even higher realms. UN. Jiang Chen nodded. Nodding with a delighted expression on his face, Apothecary Hong Yun suddenly realized that Mu Yangfeng and Zhongxian had yet to leave, and his face darkened once more. Why are you still here? Are my words not clear enough? Apothecary Hong, I really have an urgent need for the grade 4 pill formula. I beseech you to help. Mu Yangfeng pleaded earnestly. Atrocious. Apothecary Hong Yun's eyebrows shot up, and an imposing aura immediately burst from him. With an inviolable disposition, he bellowed, Apothecary Mu, take note of your identity. Only 3-star apothecaries have the rights to request for grade 4 pill formulae. I am a busy person and I don't have the time to play along with you. Why? Are you going to drag me there? If you really want a grade 4 pill formula, you can apply it yourself after you become a 3-star apothecary. If you continue acting unruly here, don't blame me for charging you for insubordination. Every single occupation was governed by a strict hierarchy. Insubordination was a serious offense, and once reported to the headquarter would issue a severe punishment to send a loud warning to the others against it. Upon seeing the other party's attitude, Apothecary Mu's body trembled and his face steeled. Just as he was about to speak, a slightly questioning voice sounded. Grade 4 pill formula. Can be requested as long as one is a 3-star apothecary, right? The one who spoke was Guild Leader Liu behind him. That's right. Apothecary Mu nodded. Then, why don't you just take the 3-star apothecary examination? Guild Leader Liu asked doubtfully. Upon hearing those words, a bizarre expression appeared on the face of the infuriated Apothecary Mu. Then, he shook his head with a bitter smile. To become a 3-star apothecary, one has to be capable of forging a grade 3 pill. I'm still far from reaching that level. Even though he had been stuck at 2-star pinnacle for many years, he was still a far way off from forging a grade 3 pill. In fact, given the limitations of his talents, he might not be able to do so in his entire life. This was a fact that everyone knew of. Thus, upon hearing guild leader Liu's words, he didn't know how he should reply. Ignorant. If grade 3 pills could be forged that easily, there wouldn't be just 2 3-star apothecaries in the entire guild. Upon hearing the apprentice behind Mu Yangfeng spouting such ignorant words, Apothecary Hong Yun and Jiang Chen flung their sleeves in disdain. What the heck was that? Why don't you just take the 3-star apothecary examination? Do you think that it is that easy to become a 3-star apothecary? Do you think that you can pass the examination just because you wanted to? There were a total of 5 2-star pinnacle apothecaries in Qianwu Kingdom Apothecary Guild, but despite many years had passed, the only one who managed to achieve a breakthrough was him. This clearly reflected the difficulty of the task. If Apothecary Mu was capable of forging a grade 3 pill, he would have taken the examination long ago. There was no need for him to wait until now. That fellow was truly incomparably ignorant. It is just a grade 3 pill. It is actually quite easy. As long as you follow my instructions closely during the forging, you'll surely succeed. Ignoring the disdainful duo by the side, Xianxia spoke nonchalantly. He was counting on Apothecary Hong Yun to send in the request, but since the latter wasn't willing, he didn't want to stoop down to begging him either. Since all 3-star apothecaries could request for pill formulas, then, why couldn't he make one himself? It isn't a big deal anyway. Easy. How arrogant. Upon hearing the apprentice bragging, Apothecary Hong Yun's complexion turned dark and he nearly erupted. Where did this fellow pop up from? Easy. Do you know what a grade 3 pill is? How dare you spout such arrogant words here? This. Apothecary Mu hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth. All right. He didn't know why Liu Laosha would say such words, but as the guild leader of the Physician Guild, he didn't think that the other party was a braggart. Since he had said such words, he must have a way to do so. Let's not waste time and just forge here then. Seeing the other party agree to it, Xianxia waved his hands casually. Back then, Xianxia had guided Mo Yu to forge a grade 2 pill at the Beast Hall. Honestly speaking, guiding a 2-star pinnacle apothecary to forge a grade 3 pill wasn't too much of a problem for him. If he knew that it was that easy to become a 3-star apothecary, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble to look for Apothecary Hong Yun. All right. Knowing that it was impossible to back down now, Mu Yangfeng did not hesitate anymore. With a flick of his wrist, a giant cauldron appeared in the room. Fine. I would like to see what kind of pill you can forge. Not expecting the apprentice to be so arrogant as to have Mu Yangfeng forge a grade 3 pill on the spot, Apothecary Hong Yun felt so angered that he started laughing instead. He had seen braggarts, but he hadn't seen one who was capable of bragging to such an extent. Guide him to forge pills. A grade 3 at that. Who do you think you are? Pavilion Master Jiang of the Master Teacher Pavilion? The pill forging genius Xianxia? What a joke. You're just a mere apprentice. Despite your insignificant position, you sure have a big mouth. By the side, Jiang Chen frowned as well. As a master teacher, he knew how difficult pill forging was. Guiding a 2-star pinnacle apothecary to forge a grade 3 pill was as difficult as ascending the heavens. Surely I must be dreaming? Are you sure there isn't something wrong with your head? Chapter 362. Who are you? Liu Laosha, what pill are we going to forge? Knowing that there was no backing out now, Mu Yangfeng put down his cauldron, lit the fire, and turned to look at Xianxia. There were countless grade 3 pills, and they had to decide on one to forge. Since the other party dared to spout such words, he must be extremely familiar with a certain type of pill. Otherwise, he wouldn't have possibly bragged that a pill would be formed as long as he followed his instructions strictly. What pill? Xianxia was taken aback. He had never considered this problem. Thus, after hesitating for a moment, he looked at Apothecary Mu and asked, Right, What kind of pill must you forge before you can be qualified as a 3-star apothecary? Since the 3-star apothecary examination required one to forge a grade 3 pill, there might be some guidelines on the pill. If so, it would be better to follow by the rules. Any grade 3 pill will work, but most 3-star apothecaries choose to forge the grade 3 White Sun pill. This is also the pill that Apothecary Hong forged for the examination back then. Upon hearing the other party asking such fundamental questions, Apothecary Mu rolled his eyes. At the same time, an ominous feeling sprouted in his heart. All right, let's forge this White Sun pill then. Oh, can you lend me your pill formula so that I can take a look? Xianxia scratched his head apologetically. I've never seen this pill before, so I'm not too clear what kind of medicinal herbs are required for it. I have to look through it before I can guide you. Mu Yangfeng staggered, and he nearly burst into tears. Brother, I trusted you so much that I have already taken out the cauldron and lit the fire. Yet, you're telling me that you've never seen the pill formula before. Why are you treating me like this? Apothecary Hong Yun and Xianxia were also speechless as well. They thought that the other party might truly be some incredible fellow that would amaze all of them, but it turned out that he was just an oaf. To say that he would guide someone on his pill forging despite having never seen the pill formula before. Will you die if you don't brag? The other party had truly impressed them with this. This is the pill formula. Apothecary Mu passed the pill formula over resentfully. As the conventional pill used by most apothecaries for the 3-star examination, the pill formula for the White Sun pill was no secret. Almost all 2-star apothecaries were aware of it, and it wasn't a big deal to show it to him. All right. Nodding his head, Xianxia touched it, and its contents immediately appeared in the Library of Heaven's Path. At the same time, many books regarding the forging of White Sun pill appeared in his mind. He had collected almost all of the books in the library of the Apothecary Guild. Even though there were no pill formulae, their pill formulae were invaluable treasures. After all, detailed on those books were the reflections of the elders in forging specific pills. Compile. Muttering softly, an entirely new book appeared before him. All right, let's begin the forging. Browsing through the book, Xianxia turned to look at Apothecary Mu with a grave expression. Follow my instructions strictly. You mustn't make the slightest error. All right. Even though he felt dismal, Mu Yangfeng had already put the word out. Left with no choice, he could only nod helplessly. As a 2-star pinnacle apothecary, he would often spend his time attempting to forge the White Sun pill. As such, he had quite a few sets of spare medicinal herbs in his storage ring, thus sparing them the trouble of obtaining them. Soon, the ignition of the flame, the warming of the cauldron, and the preparation of the medicinal herbs were done. Just by looking at the other party's smooth movements in the preparation, Xianxia was already impressed. As expected of a 2-star pinnacle apothecary, his movements were much more skilled than any other apothecaries he had seen before, be it Mo Yu or guild leader Ouyang. Xianxia walked up to the cauldron and touched it before retreating back. The temperature is around there. Should I add the medicinal herbs in now? The flame licked at the sides of the cauldron, and soon, the cauldron was already fiery hot, and the air in the surroundings distorted under the immense heat. Wait a moment. Xianxia waved casually. Continue warming the cauldron. All right. Since Apothecary Mu had already decided to follow the other party's instructions, he didn't hesitate at all. Under the drive of his Xianxia, the flames under the cauldron continued to blaze furiously. The cauldron is already red. Apothecary Hong Yun and Xianxia glanced at one another in bewilderment. Did this fellow really know anything about pill forging? Forging a pill was very different from forging an equipment, where the higher the temperature, the better it was. Harnessing the wood attribute, medicinal herbs tended to lose their medicinal properties easily when exposed to excessive heat, thus rendering them useless. The cauldron was already burning a shade of bright red, and it looked as though it would burst apart soon. Putting aside forging pills, the medicinal herbs would probably burn to crisp if they were thrown in under such a state. What in the world was he up to? Place the white wood grass in. Just as they were completely baffled over this matter, the young man's voice finally sounded. His throwing in the main ingredient of the White Sun pill directly. Apothecary Hong Yun's body swayed. Whitewood grass was the main ingredient of the White Sun pill. It was highly flammable, and upon contact with flames, it would be immediately set ablaze. Conventions dictated that it should be placed in the middle of the forging to prevent it from being burned into cinders by the blazing cauldron, as well as to allow it to better fuse with the other medicinal herbs. The cauldron was already on the verge of bursting from the intense heat, and black smoke was puffing out of it. To throw the whitewood grass in under such conditions. The heck! Without a doubt, the medicinal herbs would be burned to ashes as soon as it entered the cauldron. Preposterous! He is truly fooling around. This fellow knows nothing about pill forging. I truly wonder where Apothecary Mu found him. Harumphing coldly, Apothecary Hong Yun's face steeled. There was no doubt about it, this pill forging would surely end in failure. Anyone who had the slightest knowledge of pill forging would know not to raise the temperature of the cauldron excessively. That ignorant fellow bragged that he would instruct Apothecary Mu to successfully forge a grade 3 pill, and yet, he made such an elementary mistake. Where did this cretin come from? Apothecary Mu must truly be blind to trust a person like him. An elder council should be assembled after this farce to teach these two a lesson. Otherwise, not only would precious medicinal herbs be wasted, the reputation of the guild would also go down the drain. Ignoring Apothecary Hong Yun, whose face was darkening by the moment, Xianxia continued instructing Mu Yangfeng. 12 breaths later, put in the two-eyed beard. He issued a series of instructions. This sequence was completely different from the conventional forging methods detailed in the books for the White Sun pill, and it even seemed to contradict with the fundamental concepts of pill forging. Even so, since he had already given his word, Apothecary Mu followed the other party's instructions strictly, even though he was doubtful of the result. Gritting his teeth, he continued throwing different medicinal herbs into the cauldron while controlling the temperature of the flame carefully, not daring to make the slightest mistake. Something is wrong. As more and more medicinal herbs were thrown into the cauldron, doubts started sprouting in Apothecary Mu's mind. He had forged the White Sun pill many times in the past, and usually, after placing a few medicinal herbs in, the cauldron would begin to rock violently, as if it would explode at any moment. But this time, despite having thrown in so many medicinal herbs in, there wasn't any sign of movement at all. Could it be that all of the medicinal properties had been balanced out? If that was the case, the other party's instructions must be correct, and this meant that there was a high probability that the pill forging would be successful. Wait, that doesn't seem like it. Then, he shook his head. While it was possible for the reason behind the cauldron being calm to be due to the medicinal properties being balanced out perfectly, there was also another possibility. All of the medicinal herbs inside had already been reduced to cinders by the searing heat. If the medicinal properties of the herbs had already been eroded, then naturally, they couldn't possibly react explosively with one another. Thinking about it, the latter seemed much more probable. After all, even 4-star apothecaries were incapable of balancing out medicinal properties perfectly. Forget it, I'll just finish the pill forging first. Even though Apothecary Mu didn't think that the pill forging would succeed, he still followed Liu Laosh's instructions strictly and threw in medicinal herbs one after another. Soon, he threw in the very last medicinal herb. Open the cauldron. Xianxia instructed. Open the cauldron. Mu Yangfeng was taken aback. Normally, after throwing all of the medicinal herbs in, the mixture had to be left to simmer for a moment so that the herbs could be fused together perfectly for the formation of the pills. To open the cauldron right after throwing all of the medicinal herbs in. Wasn't this being too hasty? Quick! Xianxia didn't expect the other party to hesitate. Anxious, he urged him once more. Based on the book in the Library of Heaven's Path, the cauldron had to be opened right after all of the medicinal herbs were thrown in for the pill forging to be perfect. The other party's slight moment of hesitation had caused many mistakes to appear in the book already. At this point, even if a pill were to be formed, its effectiveness would be lowered by several grades. On the other hand, upon seeing this sight, Apothecary Hong Yun harumphed coldly and shook his head. Do you think that the pills will be formed? Xianxia couldn't help but ask. The pill that Apothecary Hong Yun had forged for his 3-star apothecary examination was also the White Sun pill, and his feat of achieving formation for it had caused a huge uproar in the city back then. Do I think that the pills will be formed? Apothecary Hong Yun harumphed disdainfully. While they are lucky that the cauldron didn't explode, all of the medicinal herbs inside it are surely ashes by now given the overwhelming heat in the cauldron just now. To expect a pill to be formed under such circumstances, that's no different from dreaming. Burned to cinders. Xianxia asked doubtfully. If you don't believe me, watch on. If pills can be formed after all that have happened, I'll cut off my head. Apothecary Hong Yun gestured confidently. If a pill could be formed with that nonsensical pill forging sequence, wouldn't 3-star apothecaries like himself would be truly worthless? He wasn't the only one to think so. Even Mu Yangfeng himself didn't think well of this pill forging. After a moment of hesitation, he clenched his jaws and opened the cauldron. Who? Filled with despair, he prepared himself to see an entire floor of black sludge from the herbs when a gush of pill fragrance wafted from the cauldron. This. Mu Yangfeng was taken aback. Rushing forward, he stretched his hand into the cauldron and grabbed onto something. Taking a closer look, it was a round and glistening pill. The fragrance it emanated assaulted his nose. This is a white sun pill, reaching the level of PP perfection. Mu Yangfeng widened his eyes, flabbergasted. Pills formed had different tiers. Formation, satiation, perfection, and inscribed pill. Based on his judgment, given the forging method previously, the pill forging should have ended in utter failure, and the only thing that should appear from the cauldron was black sludge. Never in his dreams did he expect that a pill would be formed. And at the level of perfection at that. How? How is this possible? What? Perfection. On the other hand, Apothecary Hong Yun looked as though he was on the verge of fainting. His body shuddered violently, and he nearly bit his own tongue off. He had just said that if the other party managed to form a pill, he would cut his head off. In the end, not only did the other party manage to form a pill, it even reached the level of perfection. The heck? How did this happen? That young man had started guiding Apothecary Mu on the process right after browsing through the pill formula of the white sun pill for the first time. The other party even went against conventions and warmed the cauldron until it's blazing hot before throwing the medicinal herbs in. Yet, not only were the medicinal herbs not burned to cinders, it even reached the level of perfection. This sight overturned everything he knew of pill forging. The laws that he thought were absolute in pill forging for several decades suddenly felt like a huge lie, and just the thought of it left him completely frenzied. This. What's going on? Shuddering, Apothecary Mu turned to look at Xianxia, curious to know what had just happened. How did he succeed in the pill forging? Just like that. When did a grade 3 pill become so easy to forge? Seeing the other party's doubtful gaze, Xianxia smiled casually. Even though the whitewood grass is highly flammable, that doesn't mean that it can't come into contact with flames. On the contrary, strong heat brings out its medicinal properties better. Therefore, the first herb that one should place in is this. This way, the medicinal properties of the other herbs can be fused perfectly with it layer after layer, thus bringing out the full effectiveness of the medicinal herbs. On top of that, the opening and closing of the cauldron during the intervals where one places the medicinal herbs in will cause the medicinal energy to escape. Thus, if you put the whitewood grass from the very start, it'll absorb all of the medicinal properties, fuse them together, and coagulate into a pill. Continuing on, two-eyed beard grows in the marshlands. Even though it contains yang attribute energy, there are also traces of water attribute energy within it. Only under extreme heat can the water attribute energy be forced out. With his hands behind his back, Xianxia started strolling about the room as he explained the various sequences one after another. This. Initially, they were skeptical at the other party's words. However, after hearing his explanations one after another, Apothecary Hong Yun and the others couldn't help but tremble vigorously. Eventually, their face stiffened completely. Instead of touching on the pill forging techniques, his explanations came from the perspective of maximizing the effectiveness of the medicinal properties of each herb. How one should heat the medicinal herbs and mediate between the various herbs to fully bring out the properties of the medicinal herbs. It sounded like nothing much, but to analyze a complex grade 3 pill formula so thoroughly was an extremely fearsome feat. Firstly, One had to possess an utmost understanding of every single medicinal herb contained in the pill formula. On top of that, one still had to deduce the individual reactions based on their properties precisely to select the most correct method to fuse them together. Not to mention, these deductions were highly prone to errors. As experienced apothecaries, they clearly understood the difficulty in doing so, and as such, the other party's feat had truly left all of them astounded. With just his grasp over medicinal properties, he was able to ensure that the medicinal herbs could fuse together perfectly such that no problems would crop up. Why you aren't an apprentice? Who are you? Apothecary Hong Yun stared at Xianxia in fright. Just by his knowledge of the respective medicinal properties of the herbs, the young man before him was able to ensure that a grade 3 pill was being crafted flawlessly. Even the guild leader was incapable of such a feat. Who in the world was this fellow? How could he possess such immense understanding of medicinal herbs? He's the new guild leader of the Physician Guild who solved 19 questions on the Wall of Dilemma. Apothecary Mu replied. Liu Cheng. Chapter 363. Price Liu Cheng. Guild Leader Liu. Apothecary Hong and Jiang Cheng trembled vigorously upon hearing that name. Even though this guild leader Liu had become a celebrity in the capital recently, his name was even placed alongside the supreme genius. Xianxia the duo had never seen his true appearance before. The duo had thought that he was an apprentice given that he was following behind Apothecary Mu, and his young age did little to change that perception. Never in their dreams could they have imagined that the young man would actually have such an astounding background. As the guild leader of the Physician Guild, his standing was in no way inferior to their guild leader. Even Apothecary Hong, as a 3-star apothecary, was beneath him in terms of standing. Just that. Wasn't the other party supposed to be proficient in the way of medicine? Why was he able to guide a 2-star apothecary to forge a grade 3 pill? Be it the way of medicine or pill forging, one must possess absolute grasp over the medicinal properties of the respective herbs to decide on the most ideal formula to create the most effective medicine. I might not be an apothecary, and I'm incapable of forging pills as well, but my grasp over medicinal herbs allows me to deduce the changes occurring within a cauldron precisely. With this, I'm confident in guiding an apothecary to forge even a grade 4 pill, needless to say, a grade 3 pill. Knowing the various thoughts running through other parties' mind, Xianxia replied calmly. One could achieve this much just by knowing the properties of medicinal herbs. Apothecary Hong Yun felt as though he was losing his sanity. Even the temperature at which a medicinal herb was simmered could affect the medicinal properties it released. The slightest mistake could easily result in the greatest difference, determining a failure from a success. Despite his lack of understanding in pill forging, he was able to guide someone in forging a grade 3 pill solely based on his grasp of the properties of medicinal herbs. Could such an existence still be considered a human? All along, the elites of Qianwu Royal City didn't think that highly of the famous guild leader Liu, believing that he might have prepared the answers to the 19 questions on the Wall of Dilemma beforehand, thus allowing him to solve them in a single go. But now, they realized that there wasn't any need for the other party to do so. His capability was the real deal. Putting everything aside, just his understanding of the properties of medicinal herbs would surely be unmatched by anyone in Qianwu Royal City. Even their guild leader couldn't match up to him. The study of medicinal herbs is profound and deep. How can it be summarized with just a few words? In truth, be it the prescription of a physician or the pill formula of an apothecary, they are both centered around the concept of complementing medicinal herbs in the most perfect manner to draw out their medicinal properties effectively. The two paths would naturally converge together upon reaching a certain level of understanding toward medicinal herb. As Xianxia spoke casually, his sleeves swayed under the slight breeze. At this moment, his figure looked as though an unparalleled expert of the world. Even though his words were logical, making it impossible for anyone to refute it, but in truth, such things only existed in theory. In other words, it was impossible for an ordinary human to be capable of such calculations. Even if one's understanding of medicinal herbs reached the level of a 7-star physician, it would still be impossible for one to guide another to successfully forge a pill just based on that. To make an analogy, it was just like how even though scientists knew that one could travel back into time just by exceeding the speed of light, it was impossible in practice, and to date, no one had been able to succeed. In the end, Theories were just theories, they were a long way off from accurately depicting reality. The quality of the cauldron, the heat from the cauldron, the cultivation of the apothecary, the atmosphere, the maturity of the medicinal herbs. All of these were factors that would affect the ultimate product. A difference in one or two of these factors may not amount to anything much, but when all of these differences were stacked over one another, it would result in a huge divergence. Xianxia had only managed to do so with the help of the Library of Heaven's Path. I've been enlightened. Knowing how difficult the feat was, Apothecary Hong was impressed. UN. Xianxia nodded in satisfaction. So, is Apothecary Mu considered a 3-star apothecary now? Does he have the qualification to request for a pill formula from the wall of pill formulae? The reason why Apothecary Mu is able to forge a grade 3 pill is due to your guidance, but with this experience, it shouldn't be difficult for him to succeed in the future. As such, he is qualified to request for a pill formula at the wall of pill formulae. After hesitating for a moment, Apothecary Hong replied. While Apothecary Mu had only succeeded this time due to the other party's guidance, it shouldn't be too difficult for him to replicate this success individually as long as he worked on it diligently. In other words, it was just a matter of time before Apothecary Mu became a true 3-star apothecary. Thus, in non-strict terms, it shouldn't be considered as a violation of the rules for him to request for a pill formula anymore. If I knew it was this easy, I wouldn't have wasted so much of my time asking for your help. Hearing the affirmation, Xianxia shook his head and remarked. He ended up waiting so long outside, only to be refused in the end. If he knew that it was just the matter of forging a single pill, he would have just done so from the start. What a huge waste of time. Oh. Xianxia was just complaining casually, but when Apothecary Mu heard those words, the edge of his mouth twitched. Guild leader Liu was disregarding Apothecary Hong's pride before them, and this was no different from a public humiliation. He secretly sneaked a peek toward Apothecary Hong and saw the other party's entire body trembling violently. It seemed as though he was just a single push away from spewing blood. At this moment, Apothecary Hong was truly on the verge of a breakdown. Guild leader Liu, you are doing it intentionally, aren't you? You intentionally hid your identity from us just so that we could make a fool out of ourselves. The heck? If I knew that you had such capability, I wouldn't have dared to boast before you. Now, not only did I fail to pull my weight, I even became a fool instead. More importantly, I have insulted a genius because of this. How could I ask anything of you in the future like this? Let's go. Ignoring the dismayed Apothecary Hong Yun, the duo walked out of the room. Under Apothecary Mu's lead, they soon arrived at a tightly sealed room. It was similar to the room where the Wall of Dilemma was affixed in the Physician Guild. There was nothing else other than a gigantic wall in the room. Apothecary Hong and Xianxia tagged along as well, curious to see what pill formula was Apothecary Mu going to request for. What I need is the pill formula for the grade 4 frigid yin pill. Xianxia sent a telepathic message to Apothecary Mu. UN. Apothecary Mu nodded. Upon placing the apothecary emblem representing his identity into the aperture on the wall immediately burst into life. With swift movements, he wrote 3 words on the wall of pill formulae frigid yin pill. The procedures to using the wall of pill formulae wasn't too complex. One just had to activate the wall and write down the name of the pill. As long as the pill wasn't too far beyond one's capability, the headquarter would usually agree to the request. Since there were 3-star apothecaries in Qianwu Kingdom Apothecary Guild, it shouldn't be a problem to request for a grade 4 pill formula, although it would be impossible for them to ask for a grade 5 one. The same rules applied for other apothecary guilds as well. Wang. A moment later, the wall trembled and a line of words appeared. Payment: 3 spirit stones or a transmogrification bamboo grass. This is the price for the pill formula. Staring intently at the words that appeared on the wall, Xianxia asked. UN, it is a convention to pay a price when requesting for a pill formula from the headquarter. Otherwise, the wall of pill formulae could be abused, and the headquarter might find itself constantly in a hectic state. Apothecary Hong replied. Then, with slight doubt in his tone, he said, however, usually, a grade 4 pill formula should only cost 1 spirit stone. For this one to cost 3 spirit stones or a transmogrification bamboo grass, that's way too overpriced. What's a transmogrification bamboo grass? It's an extremely precious and rare medicinal herb. Even at Xianxia conferred kingdom, it's one of the hardest herbs to obtain, needless to say. Here. Apothecary Hong Yun shook his head in pity. This is way too expensive, it's impossible for Apothecary Mu to afford it. Just as Apothecary Hong had guessed, upon seeing those words, Apothecary Mu's complexion immediately turned extremely awful. Initially, he had thought that if the price wasn't too high, he could help to foot the bill. But 3 spirit stones. This was simply too expensive. Even as a 2-star pinnacle apothecary, it was beyond his means. As for the transmogrification bamboo grass, he had only heard of its existence from the books. Guild leader Liu, I'm sorry. Apothecary Mu turned to Xianxia and apologized. The reason why the other party was at the Apothecary Guild was to help raise his daughter's cultivation. He thought that he could at least be of some help to the other party, especially given his identity. Yet, in the end, he found himself unable to contribute anything at all. This is the price for the pill formula? How do I pay the spirit stones through this wall? Upon realizing what was going on, Xianxia asked doubtfully. Given how it was possible to communicate via the wall of pill formulae, the pill formula could also be written and, thus, sent to them through the wall. However, spirit stones and transmogrification bamboo grass were tangible objects. How could they send it over through the wall? Simple. As long as you promise to make the payment, someone will be dispatched here, arriving within half a month, to claim it. As long as the payment is confirmed, the other side will send the pill formula over. Apothecary Mu replied. Half a month. Xianxia was speechless. If that was the case, what was the difference between this and buying a grade 4 pill straight? It was only because buying a pill would require a minimum of half a month that he chose to request for a pill formula instead. Despite all the trouble he went through, he simply went in a circle and ended up returning back at the starting point. It's also possible for the pill formula to be sent over on the spot. One just has to leave his emblem here as a guarantee. However, this would mean that one was putting his position as an apothecary on the line to guarantee the payment. After the pill formula is sent over, someone will come over to claim the items within half a month. After a moment of hesitation, Apothecary Mu continued, I don't mind leaving my emblem here as a guarantee, just that. I really don't have the means to pay for it. Once the other party comes and demands payment. If he could produce 3 spirit stones, it wouldn't be a problem for him to put his emblem on the line. However, he had nothing in his hands now. Once the other party comes to claim the payment and he fails to hand it over, he would be in deep trouble. His career as a 2-star pinnacle apothecary would come to an end, and all of the hard work he had poured in the past few decades would be wasted. It's just a grade 4 pill formula. How can it be so expensive? Upon understanding the entire matter, Xianxia was dismal. He was still wondering how he could procure spirit stones for his own use when the other party demanded 3 at once. Putting aside the fact that he didn't have any spirit stones now, even if he had any, he still needed them for his own cultivation. To exchange it for a pill formula. You must be jesting. Is there any other way? Xianxia asked Apothecary Mu. Other than physical objects, one could pay using knowledge and information as well. As long as the other party deems what one offers to be valuable, it can be accepted as the payment as well. At this moment, Apothecary Mu shook his head with a bitter smile. However, the person on the other side of the wall of pill formulae is at least a 4-star apothecary, a figure we can't possibly match up with. The knowledge and secrets we know of are probably worthless to them. As a 4-star apothecary, the other party's understanding of pill forging had already reached an unfathomable level. As a mere 2-star pinnacle apothecary, how could Apothecary Mu possibly offer any knowledge of interest to the other party? Knowledge can be used as payment as well. Xianxia was dumbstruck for a short moment before a gleam flashed in his eyes. Is that really true? UN. Apothecary Mu and the others were stunned to see Xianxia's bizarre reaction. Could he, as a physician, really produce information of interest to a 4-star apothecary? All right, allow me. Ignoring the shock the others were experiencing, Xianxia mused for a moment before lifting up a brush to write a line of words on the wall of pill formulae. Upon seeing the contents of his words, Apothecary Hong Yun staggered. He nearly spewed blood and fainted. Apothecary Mu was the same as well. Tears streamed down his face. This wall of pill formulae was activated using his emblem, so his name was on it. Guild Leader Liu, the words that you wrote. You are truly escorting me straight to my doom. Woo-woo, what did I do wrong to make you hate me so much? Chapter 364. Price, 3 spirit stones. An austere person. Xianxia was a 4-star intermediate apothecary of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance. He had always been in charge of overseeing the Wall of Pill Formulae. The Wall of Pill Formulae was connected to many Tier 1 kingdoms, and it was used as a platform to resolve the problems those guilds faced. Usually, there was nothing much for him to do. However, today, upon reaching his position, he realized that it was activated. It's from Tier 1 Qianwu Kingdom. Xianxia could see the location and the identity of the person who activated the wall on the other side. Mu Yangfeng. Casually flipping open the list of apothecaries, Xianxia browsed through the names and frowned. A 2-star Pinnacle Apothecary? He must have just succeeded the 3-star apothecary examination and has yet to change his emblem. Even so, to activate the Wall of Pill Formulae and request for a Grade 4 pill formula right after clearing his examination, isn't he being too impatient? At which, his face turned grim. Apothecaries who possessed an earnest desire to learn were welcomed by Xianxia. However, one should at least reach 3-star Pinnacle before requesting for a Grade 4 pill formula to study. Clearly, the other party was being overambitious. Despite having barely reached a rank of 3-star, not to mention, you haven't even changed your emblem yet. A request for a Grade 4 pill formula. Are you taking this as a joke? Furthermore, he even asked for the formula of the Grade 4 intermediate frigid yin pill. After seeing the pill formula that the other party wanted, his rage crescendoed. Apothecaries who had just cleared the 3-star examination would still be having difficulties forging a Grade 3 primary pill, and yet, the other party was actually asking for a Grade 4 intermediate pill formula. Were all the apothecaries so overambitious nowadays? HMPH. Harumphing coldly, he wrote out the price for the exchange. You want a Grade 4 pill formula? Fine, I'll give it to you. However, you'll have to be able to pay the price for it first. If you can't, you better pull down your head and study humbly. Thus, he intentionally inflated the price by 3 times so as to deter the other party. As expected, as soon as he wrote those words, the Wall of Pill Formulae fell silent. Looks like the best way to deal with such ignorant fellows is to scare them off. Xianxia muttered silently to himself as he poured himself a cup of tea and sipped on it. He thought the other party would back down upon facing this obstacle, but contrary to his expectations, the Wall of Pill Formulae suddenly shone once more, and a line of words slowly floated into appearance. I don't have the spirit stones you're asking for, but I can answer any issues you are facing in your pill forging. If you have any queries, feel free to ask. Pu. He spurted out his tea. With widened eyes, Xianxia coughed non-stop. Feel free to ask? Answer my question. In that instant, 10,000 divine beasts stampeded across Xianxia's head. The heck? I am a 4-star intermediate apothecary. Even if I really had a query, I would consult a 5-star apothecary rather than a 3-star primary apothecary like you. To utter such arrogant words, aren't you afraid of suffering a retribution from the heaven? He thought that he could scare the other party off by inflating the price by 3 times, but what he received instead was the other party's conceited response. Rage immediately flurried through his body. Apothecary Qi? What's wrong? Seething with rage, he was just about to teach this disrespectful fellow a lesson when, Jia, the door to the room suddenly opened, and an elder walked in. The head of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance Apothecary Guild, Su Xing. He was the only 4-star Pinnacle Apothecary within the entire Myriad Kingdom Alliance. Nothing much, just that I'm facing an arrogant fellow from Qianwu Kingdom. Suppressing his anger, Xianxia harumphed. An arrogant fellow. Guild leader Su was stunned for an instant. Given their prestige as the headquarter of the Apothecary Guild for the Tier 1 kingdoms, very rarely did members from lower branches dare to anger them. Qi Shengyu quickly recounted the matter to him, and he widened his eyes in shock at the entire matter. His gaze subconsciously turned to the wall of pill formulae with a look of incredulity. Your head. A 3-star apothecary who had only achieved his breakthrough recently was actually telling a 4-star intermediate apothecary to shoot his question, as though a teacher? This was no longer arrogance, more like having a screw loose. After all, no rational person would dare to spout such words to a high-ranked apothecary. It was no wonder why Qi Shengyu had flown into a rage. Even Su Xing himself felt dizzy-headed just by listening to the recount of the incident. That apothecary Mu's head must have surely suffered a stroke for him to dare to utter such nonsense. Show me his background. As the headquarter of all apothecary guilds in the lands of Myriad Kingdom Alliance, they had the information of all apothecaries within the area. Soon, a file was delivered over by an apprentice, and grabbing it, they began browsing through it, and that fellow didn't seem to possess any exceptional aptitude. To put it in short, he was nothing but average. It had been an entire 17 years since the other party had reached 2-star pinnacle. How could he act so arrogantly when he had only just achieved a breakthrough? Was his head crushed by a door, or did some savage beast accidentally kick it? Su Xing blinked his eyes, stupefied. Guild leader, what should we do? Qi Shengyu harumphed. Should we indict this fellow of insubordination and strip him of his license? There was a common trait shared by many of the occupations in the continent's strict hierarchy. Lower-ranked members were expected to treat those of higher-ranked members with a high degree of respect. And this was an official rule. Given how arrogant this fellow had spoken, they could easily charge him with insubordination and strip him of his apothecary license. Calm down, there's no need to rush it. We should at least test him with a question first. It won't be too late to charge him after he fails to answer it correctly. After a moment of hesitation, Guild leader Su replied. One thing the world didn't lack was eccentric individuals, and they couldn't possibly strip him of his apothecary license just because he had spoken arrogantly. Perhaps, he might really have to strength to back his words up. All right. Qi Shengyu nodded. It just happens that I have a question that I wanted to consult Guild leader but haven't gotten the chance to yet. I'll pose the question to him and I hope that Guild leader can help me vet his answer. If he were to answer it erroneously, I'll make sure to knock deeply into his dense head that the prestige of a high-ranked apothecary is not to be challenged. UN. Guild leader Su Xing nodded. Upon seeing the other party's agreement, Qi Shengyu picked up a brush and started writing on the wall. For the forging of the constellation sea pill, purple pearlgrass, evening sunflower, and 3-leafed green have to be fused together. Why would there be a loss in the medicinal properties of the medicinal herbs despite procedures being followed strictly? Seeing the question Qi Shengyu jotted down, Su Xing nodded his head. This question was indeed rather difficult. Many 4-star apothecaries faced similar problems while trying to forge the constellation sea pill. Back then, he was no exception as well. A lot of research and experiments had to be done before he managed to arrive at the correct answer. However, to actually pose a question which he himself didn't have the answer to, Qi Shengyu must be truly infuriated. Even some 5-star apothecaries would find it hard to answer this question. It's only due to my good fortunes that I chanced by the answer in an ancient manual. Given such, how could a person who had barely reached 3-star possibly answer it? Harboring such thoughts, Su Xing turned to look at the wall of pill formulae, curious to see what the arrogant fellow on the other side would reply with. Meanwhile, on the other end of the wall, Apothecary Mu wasn't the only one who had flown into a frenzy. Even Jiang Chen and Apothecary Hong Yun's eyebrows were twitching furiously. This was no longer just a simple case of wreaking havoc, this a challenge to the other party's authority, a clear case of insubordination. If the other party decided to indict Mu Yangfeng of this crime, they could easily strip his qualification as an apothecary straight. The elder on the other end of the wall must be infuriated. With twitching lips, Apothecary Hong Yun sent a look of sympathy to Mu Yangfeng. The countdown to the end of his career had already started. Tick tick tick. Wang. Shaking his head, the wall suddenly flashed and a line of words appeared. Constellation sea pill. Purple pearlgrass, evening sunflower, and 3-leafed green. Seeing the content of the question, Apothecary Hong Yun was completely bewildered. He didn't even know what the constellation sea pill was, so how could he possibly know the reason behind the loss of the medicinal properties of these 3 herbs? He immediately sneaked a peek at Mu Yangfeng and saw a constipated look on the other party's face. Then, he turned his gaze to the culprit of this entire mess, Liu Cheng. That fellow seemed to be confused as well, seemingly uncomprehending of the question. Just as Apothecary Hong Yun was wondering how Liu Cheng was going to resolve this mess, the other party suddenly stood up and touched the wall of pill formulae. Then, picking up a brush, he began writing once more. Dry the purple pearl grass under extreme heat for 3 days, remove the roots of the 10th sunflower, and choose a 3-leafed green with a maturity of 5 years and below. Words soon appeared on the wall of pill formulae, and upon reading its content, Xianxia abruptly stood up, and his nose flared in anger. Nonsense! What utter nonsense! The purple pearl grass possesses yin attribute and it thrives in dark places. Once exposed to extreme heat, its medicinal property would dissipate swiftly. It wouldn't even survive for a day, less 3. As for the evening sunflower, it is known to bloom only under the evening sun. Only with the setting of the celestial flame would the earthen flames be reignited, and through its roots, the evening sunflower absorbs the earthen flames to nourish itself and develop its medicinal properties. If the roots, where the bulk of its medicinal property is harnessed in, were to be removed, how much of medicinal property could it possibly retain? As for the 3-leafed green, under normal circumstances, its maturity would require at least 10 years. At just 5, it would be no different from other ordinary grasses, devoid of any medicinal property. If I were to do as he says, the loss of medicinal properties is just a small matter. I fear that there might even be none at all. The more Xianxia spoke, the faster his words got. Cracking sounds originating from his clenching of fists echoed loudly in the room. There were number 4-star apothecaries who had the experience of forging constellation sea pill who didn't know the medicinal properties of these 3 main ingredients. The advice the other party offered were a complete joke, utter rubbish. Guild leader, there's no need to consider it anymore. There's clearly something very wrong with this fellow's head. I'll apply for the stripping of his apothecary license right now. Harumphing coldly, Xianxia turned to look at guild leader Su to seek his judgment on this matter. But to his surprise, he only saw the latter, who he had known to be able to keep his composure under all circumstances, staring at the wall with widened eyes, completely dumbstruck. Guild leader. He couldn't help but shake the other party to wake him from his daze. Ah! Only then did Su Xing finally recover from his shock and, with quivering lips, he replied, his method is correct. Correct. It was Xianxia's turn to be dumbstruck this time around. Are you for real? Due to its yin attribute, cold energy easily accumulates in the purple pearl grass, and during the forging of the constellation sea pill, this cold energy would hinder the fusing of the medicinal herbs, thus inducing the dissipation of medicinal properties. As such, it has to be exposed to extreme heat to remove the cold energy. As for the evening sunflower, it serves primarily as a mediating factor. While its roots do possess incredible medicinal properties, it is, in fact, excessive. It only neutralizes the medicinal properties of the purple pearl grass. The same goes for the 3-leafed green as well. This is what I read on an ancient manual. Even 5-star apothecaries would find themselves stumped by this question. How did he know this? Xianxia was dumbfounded. Guild leader, you mean that the solution he proposed is correct? That's right. Not only is it correct, it is perfect. I have tried it out myself and there's no problem with it. Su Xing nodded. How is this possible? Xianxia felt as though he was going insane. He thought that the other party was just an arrogant fellow who had just passed the 3-star apothecary examination. He couldn't have expected that the other party would be able to solve such a difficult question which even he was stumped by. Are you for real? Am I the 4-star intermediate apothecary, or is he? Chapter 365, Price, 3 Spirit Stones. Guild leader Liu, is it really all right for you write these words? In the apothecary guild, Mu Yangfeng even felt like dying now. He should have stopped the other party from writing anything. It was one thing for you to know what the constellation sea pill was, but you should at least check on it. To write the answer right after touching the wall, aren't you being too casual? Even though Apothecary Mu didn't know the reason behind the loss of medicinal property in the purple pearlgrass, evening flower sun, and three-leafed green, as a 2-star pinnacle apothecary, he still knew a little about them. Exposing a cold attribute medicinal herb to the extreme heat, removing the roots of the evening sunflower, to demand for the maturity of the three-leafed green to be as low as possible. What the heck are you writing? Anyone who knew the least bit about pill forging would know that this was utter bullshit. It deviated completely from the core principles of pill forging. Was guild leader Liu really trying to do him in? Without a doubt, the 4-star apothecary on the other end would surely be stomping his feet in anger. If the other party could, he might have rushed over to kill him this instant. Initially, he was extremely grateful to the other party for guiding him to forge a grade 3 pill. He felt as though the other party had brought him to the peak of life, but at this moment, he realized that he was just imagining things. The other party was bringing him to the very top of the mountain before pushing him down into the valley. Otherwise, have you ever seen a low-ranked apothecary speaking to a high-ranked apothecary like that? Just as his lips twitched furiously and he felt that he was doomed, the wall before him lit up once more. I'm done for. Certain that what would be written on the wall would be his punishment, his heart turned cold. Unwilling to face reality, he immediately turned his head away to avoid seeing the content of the message. But to his astonishment, he heard Apothecary Hong Yun breathing heavily, as though he was suffering a heart attack out of shock. Apothecary Mu, lo, look. With a shaking finger, he pointed at the wall. Doubtful, Apothecary Mu turned to take a look, and with a glance, he felt as though his heart was about to burst apart. He suddenly froze on the spot. It took a long while before he managed to utter a word. This. What is going on? Bright and forceful words appeared on the wall. Correct. This can strike off the payment required for the frigid yin pill formula. Correct. Apothecary Mu rubbed his eyes and confirmed that he wasn't seeing things. He found the sight before him impossible to comprehend. The few casual words that guild leader Liu wrote with a confused look on his face was the correct answer. Am I dreaming? It's good that it's correct. With this, my career should be fine. Relief gushed through his body. Since it was correct, it was unlikely that the other party would strip him of his apothecary license for insubordination. At the very least, his career was safe now. Heaving a sigh of relief, he was just about to say something when the wall in front glowed once more and a line of words appeared. Grade 4 Pinnacle Energy Aperture Pill. It is common for the cauldron to explode during the forging process. How can this problem is solved? Grade 4 Pinnacle Pill. Energy Aperture Pill? I've heard of this pill before. It is a grade 4 pinnacle pill, and even 5-star apothecaries would find it hard to forge. After consumption, it will open up a person's energy apertures, thus boosting their cultivation. As such, it is an extremely valuable and sought-after pill. The other party is posing a question on it. The entire room fell silent. Was the 4-star apothecary on the other side insane? Despite guild leader Liu's lack of respect, not only did the other party not pursue the matter, the other party even continued asking questions. Could it be that this guild leader Liu was really that incredible as to be able to even guide a 4-star apothecary on his pill forging? This. Staring at the young man not too far away with a bizarre look, Apothecary Mu was just about to step forward and discuss with him on how to solve this problem when the other party picked up a brush and started writing once more. Taking a look at the words the other party wrote, Mu Yangfeng, who had just barely heaved a sigh of relief at having preserved with career, saw his vision go dark. His heart nearly leapt out of his mouth. Apothecary Hong Yun and Xianxia fared no better than him. They felt their knees caving in, and they swayed weakly on the spot. Brother, you are about to bash through the heavens. On the wall, for words shone brightly price, 3 spirit stones. This fellow. Does he really think that we're trying to learn from him? On the other end of the wall, upon seeing the words Zhong Xian wrote, Qi Shengyu nearly erupted. Right after recovering from the shock from the other party's answer, he felt that there was a need to continue testing the other party to see whether he possessed true capability or merely lucked out in his guesses. Thus, guild leader Su raised the current question to see what the other party would answer. However, the other party simply replied with 4 words. Price. Price your head. I am testing you, a 3-star apothecary, in my capacity as a 4-star apothecary of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance Apothecary Guild. And yet, you demand payment? The heck? This is a test. A test. Don't you get it? Do you really think that we don't know the answer and that we are consulting you on it? Agree to his request. After hesitating for a moment, Su Xing nodded. Agree. This time, Xianxia was stunned. Actually, I don't know the answer to this question as well. I'm just curious to see what kind of answer he would give. Su Xing replied. You don't know. Xianxia fell to the ground. You are the most capable apothecary in the entire guild, reaching a rank of 4-star pinnacle. What do you mean by you don't know the answer? Aren't we supposed to be testing him? Why did it become a consulting session instead? Besides, if you don't know the answer as well, how can we determine the authenticity of his answer? Even though Xianxia was shocked, under the persistence of the guild leader, he still wrote agreed. After which, the other party replied with 2 words pill formula. After hesitating for a moment, Xianxia wrote the pill formula for energy aperture pill on the wall. Wang. Soon, words appeared on the wall once more. The medicinal herbs required for the energy aperture pill are volatile, and they react violently with one another. Thus, one has to first soak the medicinal herbs in flowing water to remove its volatility before adding in a stalk of Chushi grass. I'll try it out. The solution recorded on the wall was quite simple. After taking a look, guild leader Su immediately tested it out. Not too long later, he came to a stop. Catching the scent of the fragrance from the cauldron, he was dumbstruck. It's correct. To think that the method the other party provided was actually correct. To think that a question which even a 4-star pinnacle apothecary like him couldn't solve was answered by a fellow who had just become a 3-star apothecary so easily. On top of that, the answer was flawless. What in the world was going on? The person on the side probably isn't Mu Yangfeng. Apothecary Qi, go and check who he is. After a moment of silence, he suddenly came to a realization. If Apothecary Mu was that capable, he would have become a famous figure long ago. How could he possibly remain unknown for so long? All right, I'll head to Shenyuan Conferred Kingdom now. Upon coming to the same conclusion, Xianxia hurriedly nodded his head. Chenwu Kingdom was a territory of Shenyuan Conferred Kingdom. As such, he had to head to the latter first. UN. However, hold it for a moment first. Let's first sound the bell and summon all of the apothecaries in the alliance to the guild now. Guild leader Su instructed. Yes. Xianxia nodded, turned around, and left. All right, done. After collecting the frigid yin pill formula in the library, Zhongxian chuckled. With this formula, he would be able to forge the frigid yin pill to awaken Zhao Ya's unique constitution. Not only did he not spend any money on the pill formula, someone would even be sending spirit stones to him. In a sense, he had profited from this deal. Right, when will the other party send the spirit stones over? Zhongxian asked. Such a thing has never happened, so I'm not too sure either. However, based on my estimations, it should take around half a month. Mu Yangfeng contemplated for a moment before answering. At the start, he was shocked, but eventually, everything faded and only numbness remained. When requesting for a pill formula from the headquarters, everyone had to pay a heavy price. Yet, not only did this fellow manage to get his pill formula, he even earned some spirit stones from the headquarters. If not for personally witnessing this sight, he wouldn't believe it even if someone were to coerce him at knife point. At this moment, his head still felt light, as though he was in a dream. Half a month. That's still all right. Zhongxian nodded. It was quite good for him that he would be getting 3 spirit stones in half a month's time. Guild leader Liu, what do we do now? Mu Yangfeng asked. Since the pill formula is here, naturally, we have to forge it. Help me gather these medicinal herbs. Zhongxian said. Even though the frigid yin pill is a grade 4 pill, based on what I've seen just now, the medicinal herbs required aren't too rare. We should be able to find all of them in our apothecary guild. However, even if we manage to gather all of the medicinal herbs, without a grade 4 apothecary here, we can't forge it. Mu Yangfeng looked at guild leader Liu doubtfully. Apothecary Hong Yun was also perplexed. The most proficient apothecary in the entire Qianwu Kingdom's apothecary guild was the guild leader at 3-star primary. No one else here was capable of forging a grade 4 pill. Even if they managed to get the pill formula and gather the medicinal herbs, they were unable to do anything at all. Who says that it is impossible to forge a grade 4 pill without a 4-star apothecary? Xianxia waved his hands casually. Then, he turned to Apothecary Mu and said, "Aren't you here? You can just forge it for me." Me? Shocked, Mu Yangfeng nearly fainted on the spot. He was well aware of his pill forging skills. He was only at the level of an ordinary 2-star pinnacle, and the only reason why he successfully forged a grade 3 pill was because of the other party's guidance. Grade 4? He didn't even dare to harbor such thoughts. Don't worry. Let's just gather the medicinal herbs for now. I'll instruct you on it later on. Knowing what the other party was worrying about, Xianxia consoled him. You'll instruct me. After hesitating for a moment, Mu Yangfeng looked at Xianxia doubtfully. Can I really succeed? If it was anyone else, Apothecary Mu would have surely thought that he was bragging. However, he had seen too much miracles from this youngster from the moment he met him until now. Perhaps, the other party might really be able to guide him to successfully forge a grade 4 pill. Don't worry. Even if we don't succeed, we'll just fail. At the very worst, the cauldron will only explode. Xianxia answered casually. The cauldron will only explode. Mu Yangfeng's lips twitched and he nearly fainted. Do you know how strong the explosion will be if the cauldron explodes while forging a grade 4 pill? Even though it was only a level between grade 3 and grade 4, there was a qualitative difference between the two. It was just like how a phantom equipment and spirit equipment were two completely different concepts. Even a Zhizuan realm expert could be blown to smithereens if unprepared against a grade 4 pill explosion. Needless to say, Xianxia realm cultivators like them. To think that you said it will only explode. If it truly exploded, the entire apothecary guild would disappear from the face of this world. It will blow the entire apothecary guild up. After hearing Apothecary Mu's explanation, Xianxia was taken aback. He thought that, at the very worst, an explosion similar to that when Mo Yu forged the pill in the Beast Hall would occur. He didn't think that the explosive power of a grade 4 pill would be so great. On top of that, the medicinal herbs of a grade 4 pill are also extremely valuable. Even though our guild has them all, the total cost of them all adds up to a huge fortune. A single set would cost around 3 spirit stones. In terms of gold coins, it is impossible to buy it without 100 million. Apothecary Mu continued. 3 spirit stones? Costs more than 100 million gold coins. Before Apothecary Mu could finish his words, the young man before him trembled. Then, he quickly turned to the wall of pill formulae with crimson eyes, picked up the brush, and started writing. Is the apothecary on the other side still there? Do you have any other questions? 3 spirit stones for 1, the more the better. I can answer all of your queries now. Mu Yangfeng. Jiang Cheng and Apothecary Hong Yun. On the other side. Guild Leader Su Xing. Chapter 366. Tenacious Lu Chong. Upon hearing the price of the medicinal herbs, Xianxia's heart crumbled. After spending an entire night of effort to earn 3 spirit stones, he only managed to earn enough to buy the medicinal herbs. This is robbery. Do you think that it is easy for me to earn spirit stones? Do you all need to go that far? Holding his brush, Xianxia waited for a very long time, but the other party didn't reply at all. Clearly, he had no other questions. Stingy. To think that he's still a 4-star apothecary, it's just a small sum of money. Scrooge. Tossing the brush aside, Xianxia bellowed. What the heck is this? Aren't you a 4-star apothecary? Aren't you a huge figure in the Myriad Kingdom Alliance? To be unwilling to even spare 3 spirit stones. I've never seen someone as miserly as you. Scrooge. Mu Yangfeng and Apothecary Hong trembled. Brother, you're the Scrooge, all right? Since the other party has no questions, he can't possibly give spirit stones to you for free. To scold a 4-star apothecary stingy and Scrooge. You're probably the only one in the entire kingdom. Guild leader Liu, we'll take the spirit stones from the headquarter as the compensation for the medicinal herbs. I'll prepare the rest for you now. Afraid that the other party would do extreme things once more, Mu Yangfeng hurriedly said and left. This guild leader Liu was indeed a person of great capabilities, but his guts were too huge for Mu Yangfeng to bear. Mu Yangfeng had always faced higher-tier apothecaries with utmost respect. Yet, the other party didn't seem concerned about the hierarchy at all, spewing criticisms without the slightest hesitation. Mu Yangfeng was afraid that he would die of shock if he remained here. Just as apothecary Hong Yun and Jiang Chen were about to leave, the young man turned to look at them with a bright smile. With glowing eyes, he asked, "Those Scrooge don't even dare to ask their questions once they heard that they needed to pay. What about you two? Feel free to shoot. As long as you have the spirit stones to pay, I'll solve any problems you have." "We don't have any." Frightened, their faces turned pale. They quickly shook their hands. "No questions? Then, are you all ill? I can treat you as well." Zhong Xian continued. "Oh." Apothecary Hong Yun and Jiang Chen. The efficiency of the apothecary guild was one to behold. In less than an hour, they had already gathered all of the medicinal herbs required for the forging of the frigid yin pill. After confirming again and again that the duo didn't require any treatment, Zhong Xian followed behind Mu Yangfeng with a regretful expression, and before long, they entered one of the pill forging chambers prepared for the apothecaries in the guild. The best cauldrons were here, and a formation was also set up in the surroundings. Even if a cauldron explosion were to occur, the operations of the guild wouldn't be affected at all. Guild leader Liu, are you sure that you want me to forge it? Looking at the medicinal herbs and cauldron before him, apothecary Mu hesitated. Grade 4 pills were also known as spirit pills. Even if one didn't store it in a jade box, it would absorb spiritual energy from the world automatically, thus preventing its quality from deteriorating with time. Legend has it that someone had once dug out pills of this level from an ancient tomb, and despite countless years had passed, not only did the pills not lose their effectiveness, they even became more potent. Some of the pill at formation level reached satiation and even perfection. This kind of pill didn't just have a high demand on one's pill forging skill, it also required one to possess superior cultivation. Otherwise, if something were to crop up and a cauldron explosion occurred, it would very possibly result in one's death. Even though guild leader Liu had asked for his help, Mu Yangfeng didn't have any confidence in himself at all. Later on, just strictly forge by my instructions. You mustn't make even the slightest mistake. At this moment, Zhong Xian's face was completely grave. After browsing through the books in the guild, Zhong Xian understood the difficulty of forging a grade 4 pill. Even though he was able to rectify all of the errors in the forging process through the Library of Heaven's Path, it was still an extremely difficult task to have a Xianxia successfully forge a grade 4 pill. All right. Despite knowing of the risks that came with forging a grade 4 pill, Apothecary Mu also knew that this was a valuable experience. Even if he were to fail in the forging, it would definitely help bring his pill forging skills to new heights. Thus, he didn't hesitate for long before clenching his jaws and agreeing to it. The young man before him had created way too many miracles. Deep down, he had already developed a deep trust for the other party's capability. If he were to turn down this opportunity today, he knew that he would regret it for life. Let's start then. Mu Yangfeng meditated for a moment to reach his tip-top condition before walking forward to the cauldron. With a slight wave of his hands, a flame ignited beneath the cauldron. Xiong xiong xiong. Under the intense heat, the cauldron started to turn red. Add in the alfalfa flower. 2 breaths after, add in the motherwort grass. 14 breaths later, add in the cold frost leaf. Zhong Xian started to issue instructions non-stop. Mu Yangfeng followed all of Zhong Xian's instructions strictly, not daring to make the slightest mistake. Hualala. Medicinal herbs were thrown into the cauldron one after another, slowly fusing with one another under the heat of the cauldron. Outside the pill forging chamber, To prevent interrupting the duo, Apothecary Hong Yun and the others remained outside. Do you think that they will succeed? After a long moment, Xianxia asked. I've no idea either. It would be impossible for any other people, but this guild leader Liu cannot be understood by common sense. Apothecary Hong Yun shook his head. Until now, he was still unable to gauge the full extent of Liu Cheng's ability. While requesting for a pill formula on the wall of pill formulae, he was able to solve a question which stumped even the 4-star apothecary on the other side of the wall, leaving the other party tongue-tied. His capability was way beyond imagination. Indeed. Xianxia felt a sense of defeat. He was the son of Pavilion Master Jiang, and he was considered as a genius as well. Even though he couldn't compare up to Mo Hongyi and Mo Yu, but he was considered as one of the most talented geniuses among his peers. He thought that even if he lost out to those two monsters in terms of talent, he could catch up to them through hard work. However, when he met Xianxia and guild leader Liu, he realized that there was a huge difference among geniuses as well. Despite being a physician, guild leader Liu was actually attempting to instruct a 2-star pinnacle apothecary to forge a grade 4 medicine just through his understanding of medicinal herbs. He felt like if he were to tell anyone about it, the other party would just think that he was a lunatic. However, regardless of whether he succeeds or not, Apothecary Mu's pill forging skill would surely rise greatly. In fact, with this experience, it is not entirely impossible for him to become a 4-star apothecary. Apothecary Hong Yun felt deep regret. Even if this pill forging failed, just the experience itself would allow Apothecary Mu's pill forging skills to reach a whole new level. As long as he builds on it, it would just be a matter of time before the other party surpasses him. He could already see the seat of the guild leader falling to the Apothecary Mu and not him. If not for his bragging, this opportunity might be his. It's truly a huge pity. However, opportunities only present themselves once, and time couldn't be turned back. No matter how heavy the regret weighing down his heart was, it was all too late. In a small room in the Qianwu Academy, the naked Lu Chong slowly opened his eyes. Using a towel to wipe off the sweat which dripped off his body, he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. It's already my 4th time. Looking at the bottle of medicinal powder, which was still more than half full, Lu Chong hesitated. Teacher said that my strength will reach my limit after 5 times. If so, the medicinal powder will become useless. In the past few trainings, I can sense that the effectiveness is getting worse and worse. Most probably, after the 5th time, my strength will only reach the level of Tongxian Realm Pinnacle. It'll still be difficult for me to exact vengeance. Lu Chong gritted his teeth. Liu Laoshe had once told him that it would take around 5 times before he would successfully cultivate the poison body. Thus, he had been cultivating doggedly in the last few days. As soon as he recovered, he would immediately continue with his training. Through his determination, his strength grew swiftly. However, a problem also soon became apparent to him. That was, the effects of the poison powder was slowly weakening. The previous time, his improvement was already less than half of his first session. He could foresee that it wouldn't take long before the poison powder became completely ineffective. Since it comes down to this, I should just use all of the poison powder at once. Tenacity flashed across his eyes. Strictly following his teacher's instructions, the bottle should still be around half full by the time he completed the 5 sessions. Since the effects of the 5th session were going to be minimal, what would happen if he tried increasing the dosage? To exact my vengeance, I'll have to go all out. Lu Chong gritted his teeth, and without using the silver needle, he poured all of the poison powder directly at his acupoint. Dabbing a little bit of poison on his acupoints through a silver needle and smearing it directly on his skin were 2 very different concepts. Even if Zhongxian was here, he would definitely think that the other party had gone mad. Boom! A heart-piercing pain suddenly struck him. An intense vertigo caused Lu Chong's body to sway vigorously. I can't die yet. I need to exact my vengeance first. Father, mother, and big sister, I will avenge all of you. Familiar faces flashed across his mind, and Lu Chong howled furiously. Of his entire clan consisting of 137 members, he was the only one left. How could he die before revenging them? Goo 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 goo. The lethal poison seeped into his blood vessels and flowed through his entire body. Excruciating pain tore his entire body. If there was such a thing as hell, this must be it. Compared to the pain he felt during the first time he came into contact with the poison powder, the suffering he was undergoing now was 10 times worse. If not for his increased tolerance to pain after the past few days of suffering, he might not have even persevered past a single breath. Even so, he felt a strong sense of dizziness clouding his head, and it seemed as though death was looming right on top of him. Teacher has high expectations of me. Father, mother, big sister, and the others are still waiting for me to avenge them. Hang on. Bellowing tenaciously, Lu Chong bit on his tongue tightly. Blood slowly trickled down the corner of his mouth. For the past 2 years, he had been keeping completely silent while cultivating as though his life was on the line. What was that for? Despite the pain and the risk of death, he chose to cultivate the poison body. What was that for? As long as my enemies aren't dead, I, Lu Chong, cannot die. Boom, after what seemed like an eternity, the pain finally started to fade. Only then did Lu Chong's mental state loosen, and his vision immediately turned dark and he fainted. Before he fainted, the poison powder dissolved in a surge of incredibly pure Xianxia and slowly fused with his body, causing his strength to rise. This Xianxia was the one which Zhongxian left in Lu Chong's body when the latter made the vow to not divulge the techniques to others. If it wasn't for it protecting his heart, no matter how strong Lu Chong's will was, it was impossible for him to survive the onslaught of the lethal poison. For some reason, under the onslaught of the lethal poison, the Xianxia seeped into his body and augmented the flexibility and strength of his muscles. Just like that, his strength exceeded that of the foreseen limit of Tongxian Realm Pinnacle. Apothecary Hong Yun and Jiang Chen waited for nearly 2 hours before the pill forging chamber opened and 2 figures walked out. They were Apothecary Mu and Guild Leader Liu. At this moment, the duo's faces were white and they looked exhausted. Sweat soaked their clothes, and their appearance was nothing short of unkempt. Could it be that? Gudding, upon seeing the appearance of the duo, an ominous premonition appeared in their heads as they hurried up to the duo. Chapter 367, Mo Hongyi fell into the fecal drain. How did it go? Apothecary Hong Yun stepped forward and asked. Success. Mu Yangfeng was exhausted, but excitement twinkled in the depths of his eyes. He turned to look at Guild Leader Liu in reverence. Having forged alongside him, Mu Yangfeng finally understood how deep his understanding of pill forging was. This wasn't a level that one could reach based solely on one's understanding of medicinal herbs. Even though he had followed the other party's instructions strictly, several crises still occurred throughout the process. It wasn't because he had made a mistake, but because his cultivation was too low. Qianwu Kingdom was a decently powerful kingdom, but it still wasn't capable of forging grade 4 pills yet. For the forging of the pill, maintaining the flame, as well as the temperature of the cauldron, required Xianxia. There were many times that the pill forging nearly failed due to the depletion of his Xianxia. If not for the many regeneration pills that he had forged throughout the years, he might have died of exhaustion then and there. Every time his Xianxia ran low and a crisis occurred, this guild leader Liu would use inconceivable but surprisingly effective means to salvage the situation. Even though it seemed as though failure was inevitable, he produced miracle after miracle, which led to the ultimate success. It was as though he could see the situation in the cauldron with his own eyes, and he knew what he had to do to prevent an explosion. He truly couldn't imagine how someone of the other party's age could possess such vast and deep knowledge of pill forging. Just like Apothecary Hong Yun had guessed, he had learned many things through this pill forging. Regardless of whether it was his skill or his mental fortitude, he had experienced a huge growth. It probably wouldn't be long before he managed to forge grade 3 primary or even intermediate pills independently. Success. Seeing Apothecary Mu's look of admiration, Hong Yun and Jiang Chen also turned to look at Guild Leader Liu, dumbstruck. To think that the other party could really create a miracle. This was a result that one couldn't accept easily even when seeing it for oneself. After the successful forging of the frigid yin pill, there was nothing left for Zhongxian to do here. After a moment of rest, Zhongxian started to help Mu Xueqing trigger the medicinal energy accumulated in her body. Apothecary Mu had prepared the medicinal fluid long ago, and Mu Xueqing had also reached the peak condition, allowing Xianxia to start on the treatment immediately. Using the silver needles as a medium, Xianxia infused the Heaven's Path Xianxia into the other party's body. As soon as that pure Xianxia came into contact with the accumulated medicinal energy within Mu Xueqing, it was as though a spark of flame had come into contact with gasoline. A huge flame was ignited, and massive energy started streaming through her entire body via her meridians. Pilipala. Crisp sounds, reminiscent of exploding bamboos, reverberated consecutively throughout her body as numerous acupoints were opened. Knowing that Mu Xueqing wouldn't be in any danger under the protection of the medicinal fluid, Xianxia bade Mu Yangfeng farewell and left the guild. After finding a remote alley, he disguised himself as Xianxia and walked towards the residence. By the time he reached the residence, it was already late at night. It was fortunate that Zhao Yue was still awake. He passed the frigid yin pill to her and instructed her to consume it as soon as possible. After which, he passed to her the sword Beast Tamer Wang gave him back at the Beast Hall. This sword was at a significantly higher tier than the one he broke, and it complemented Zhao Yue's disposition. After dealing with these miscellaneous matters, Xianxia suddenly felt a surge of fatigue, so he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. Honestly, he had underestimated the difficulty of forging the frigid yin pill. If not for the library of Heaven's Path instantaneous updates which allowed him to peer into the flaws of the forging, an explosion would have occurred. Keeping his mind working at maximum capacity had exhausted both his body and his soul, causing his face to pale. Seemed like he had to avoid doing matters beyond his strength. Otherwise, he might just die from exhaustion one day. By the time Xianxia woke up the next day, the sun was already up. After a good rest, he felt revitalized. After asking the others, he found out that Zhao Yue had gone into seclusion to cultivate. Thus, he delegated some instructions to Sun Qiong before leaving the residence for Qianwu Academy. He hadn't met Lu Chong for 2 days already, so he felt that he should check on his condition now that he had the time. "Teacher, you're here." As soon as Xianxia reached the entrance of the classroom, Meng Dao immediately rushed up to him. "What's wrong?" Xianxia looked at him. Meng Dao had always been a composed person. It was impossible for him to be waiting at the entrance of the classroom for him for nothing. "Teacher, Sun Laosha has been waiting for you since morning, and it has already been 2 hours since he arrived." Meng Dao quickly reported. "Sun Cheng." Xianxia was taken aback. Wasn't that Mo Hongyi? Why would he look for him now? Walking into the room, he saw Mo Hongyi sitting quietly on a stool in the classroom, sipping quietly on a cup of tea. "You're finally here. You sure kept me waiting." Upon seeing Xianxia walk in, Mo Hongyi flashed a bitter smile. Xianxia was indeed incredible. To pass the 2-star master teacher exam, Mo Hongyi had been holing himself up in the classroom, not daring to leave at all. Every single day, he would spend 8 to 10 hours conducting lessons so as to build trust with his students. This fellow spent less than an hour in his classroom every day and disappeared frequently. Yet, his students were still completely infatuated with him. They even went to the extent of fighting with Zhongsha's students for his honor. This was truly maddening. Mo Hongyi had no choice but to submit to him. "Let's go in to speak." The classroom was filled with students, so it wasn't a good location to speak. Thus, Xianxia beckoned Mo Hongyi into the mini tutoring room. "I have 2 matters to discuss with you." Mo Hongyi dived straight into the topic. "Firstly, the principal asked me to convince you to meet with Zhongsha for a meal so that no conflict will evolve between you two over the students' fight." "Meet with Zhongsha?" Xianxia blinked in shock. "How can I agree to that? Meeting with himself? And have a meal at that? How in the world can he do it? Who asked you to be so high profile?" Seeing the fellow who had broken most of his records suffering from this dilemma, Mo Hongyi chuckled gleefully. "You were only asked to act as an ordinary teacher, yet you went to the physician guild to take on the role of their guild leader, and the students you teach even insisted on fighting it out with Zhongsha's students. Given how high profile you are, it will be difficult for you not to attract any attention. You were the one who put yourself in such an awkward position. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. I know that you won't agree to it anyway. However, given the principal's attitude, if I tell him that I am unable to persuade you, he'll definitely come to look for you personally. At that time, it'll be difficult for you to turn him down. Mo Hongyi shook his head as he changed the topic. Let's talk about the second matter then. After the past few days of effort, I think the trust level of my students should have already reached 40. Thus, I intend to return to the Master Teacher Pavilion to end the examination. Your students also seem to hold a high level of trust in you, so why don't we go together? Once you end the examination, others will know that Liu Laoshi is Xianxia, and you will be able to get out of this dilemma. At the same time, your students will also stop their quarreling. UN. After hesitating for a moment, Xianxia nodded. The condition that the Master Teacher Pavilion gave them was to earn a trust level of 40 from their students within 10 days in their disguised self. This time was just a limit on the examination. If one could achieve this feat earlier, one would be able to end this examination in advance. However, if it turned out to be a fail, the students would definitely know their true identity, making it impossible for them to continue on with the examination. If so, it would be a fail for their 2-star Master Teacher examination. After the past few days of guidance, putting Mu Xueqing and Lu Chong who Zhongxian were exceptionally close to aside, Meng Dao and the others were also completely obedient to his words. Even if their trust level in him wasn't too high, Zhongxian was confident that it had already reached 40, allowing him to pass the examination. Seeing the other party agree to it, Mo Hongyi chuckled. All right, then let's visit the Master Teacher Pavilion tomorrow morning then. All right. Zhongxian replied. This matter wasn't too complicated, so after coming to an agreement, Mo Hongyi bade his farewell and left. He wanted to continue on his lesson to make one last push. Returning back to the classroom, Zhongxian guided Meng Dao and the others on their cultivation before asking, "Where's Lu Chong? Why isn't he here today? He should be cultivating. I'll get him here." Meng Dao replied and left. As a student of the academy, Lu Chong lived in the dormitory. Knowing that it would take some time before Meng Dao can get Lu Chong here, Zhongxian took a seat. While overlooking the student's cultivation, he poured himself a cup of tea and placed it to his lips. Just as his lips came into contact with the cup, he suddenly frowned. Dry earthen powder. Zhongxian had never taken the Poison Master examination, but after taking in all of the books in the Poison Hall, he already possessed the capability of a 2-star Pinnacle Poison Master. Even before coming into contact with the tea in the cup, he already noticed the lethal poison contained within. Dry earthen powder was a type of Grade 2 Pinnacle poison, and it was effective even on Xianxia realm Pinnacle experts. Even though it wasn't deadly, it could sap a person's energy completely and induce both nausea and diarrhea, leaving him in agony. Who would spike his teacup? And why? Frowning, Zhongxian was just about to ask who had come into contact with his tea set when Meng Dao suddenly rushed back in with a bizarre and frantic expression. Liu Laoshi, bad news. What's wrong? Has something happened to Lu Chong? Seeing the other party's expression, Zhongxian's eyebrows shot up. He had told the other party to look for Lu Chong, yet the other party came back with a panicked expression. Did that fellow deviate from the cultivation technique he taught him, and a problem had occurred? If the student he taught during this period of time were to go berserk or die, putting aside failing the 2-star Master Teacher examination, he might even be expelled. If it was in the past, given how he possessed the library of Heaven's Path, being a Master Teacher or not meant nothing much to him. However, if he didn't become a 9-star Master Teacher before reaching 30, the innate fetal poison in him would act up, causing his death. He had to pass the examination. Even though he knew that there were other ways as well, there was no guarantee that he would be able to find them. If he couldn't find those solutions, there was no point knowing of their existence. The best chance that he had now was this. Others might deem it impossible, but to Zhongxian, as long as he cultivated diligently and found the corresponding cultivation technique manuals he required, there was a high chance he could succeed. That shouldn't be it. I have sent in a surge of Heaven's Path Xianxia to protect his heart. Furthermore, he has already survived the hardest ordeal, so he shouldn't meet with any problem. Before leaving, Zhongxian had made sure to double-check that the Xianxia he infused earlier was still within Lu Chong's body. Since he had survived even the hardest ordeal, there should be no reason why a problem would occur now. It's not Lu Chong. Meng Dao shook his head. A bizarre expression slowly unfurled on his face. It's Sun Xianxia. He. What about him? Xianxia asked. With an awkward expression, Meng Dao replied, he fell into the fecal drain. Chapter 368. Two methods in the campus. The autumn wind blew and the tree rustled. I must say that Sun Laotia's classes are indeed impressive. Walking along the corridor, Zhao Wuxing commented. Even though Sun Xianxia, who came in at the same time as Liu Xianxia, was outshone by the latter, he did possess true ability. It was just yesterday that Liu Changyang and he listened to a lesson from Sun Laotia, and they benefited greatly from it. Indeed, his lessons are very good. I think that is even better than Hu Laotia. Liu Changyang nodded. Actually, the class which they wanted to listen into was Liu Laotia's, but he was rarely around. They had looked for him a couple of times, but to no avail. Eventually, when they heard the rumors that Sun Laotia's classes were not bad as well, they went to attend his lessons. In an instant, they were astounded. Sun Laotia may seem unimpressive, but his understanding of cultivation reached an unbelievable level. Even the most impressive star teacher in Qianwu Academy seemed to pale in comparison to him. Liu Laotia and Sun Laotia are people of great capability. But why would they be obscure before being accepted by the academy? While they were impressed by the means of the duo, they harbored their doubts as well. All gold shines. Given how capable the two teachers were, it should have been impossible to bury their radiance. They should have long been famous figures in a region, so how could they be only discovered now? I have no idea, but since the academy took them in, it must have looked into their backgrounds beforehand, so there should be no trouble. Liu Changyang shook his head. Actually, we need not pay too much heed to this matter. It is sufficient as long as their lecture is good. Let's listen to Sun Laotia's lessons more frequently. The most important thing we have to do right now is raising our cultivation. Qianwu Academy had an open concept, and all students were allowed to enter classrooms freely to listen to the lectures of other teachers. For top geniuses like them, ordinary lessons were already ineffective. Only by going around the classes and broadening their horizons could they grow. You're right. I have a new idol now, on top of Xianxia and Liu Laotia, Sun Laotia. Zhao Wuxing chuckled. I feel the same as well. His ability to explain profound concepts so easily truly opens up my mind. Liu Changyang nodded. Halfway through his words, he suddenly froze. Then, he pointed to a direction and asked, Look, isn't that Sun Laotia? Following the other party's finger, they saw a youngster staggering weakly with spiritless eyes. Who else could it be other than the formidable Sun Xianxia they just spoke of? What's wrong with him? Let's take a look. When they met the other party yesterday, he was still filled with energy and vigor. Why would he be reduced to such a state today? Could it be that he is in the midst of cultivating some powerful battle technique? Suddenly, a thought appeared in Zhao Wuxing's mind, and his eyes lit up in excitement. It was rumored that there was a powerful battle technique in Qianwu Kingdom which one could only execute when drunk. Even though the movements seemed sloppy, similar to that of a drunk person, it was profound and possessed great might. Sun Laotia had touched on this battle technique when he was explaining and deciphering the various cultivation techniques and battle techniques. Upon seeing his current state, the duo couldn't help but think of this matter. It's possible. Liu Changyang nodded. He couldn't help but utter in amazement. Such a profound movement. It looks as though it is full of openings, but there is high possibility that it is intentional. Most of the talented geniuses in the academy had bizarre quirks, and given how capable this Sun Laotia was, he might be the same as well. Until now, they still found it hard to believe that there could be such a formidable teacher in Qianwu Academy. Upon seeing the other party's weak and bizarre footsteps, their first thought was that he was cultivating some powerful battle technique rather than something had happened to him. Look at this move. It seemed to be sided toward the east, but it is actually a movement to the west. This must be a high-level feint technique. This move also seems quite incredible. His kneecap suddenly caving in might make it seem as though he is falling down, but in truth, this is a good move to avoid an opponent's attack. I should give it a try later on. Just as they were complimenting the other party, they suddenly paused. The heck? Sun Laosha has fallen into the latrine pit. Save him. The Sun Laosha, who they were complimenting to the heavens a moment ago, had suddenly lost his balance and fallen into a latrine pit. Since there were public toilets in the academy, there were drainage systems for it as well. These drainage systems were located at the corner of the academy, far away from the official paths. As though drunk, Sun Laosha's footsteps were wobbly and unstable. The duo thought that he was practicing some formidable battle technique, and never in their wildest dreams could they have imagined that he would suddenly fall into the drain. They quickly rushed forward and, enduring the stench, they fished him out. Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changyang stared at one another with faces burning red. They had just said confidently that Sun Laosha was definitely practicing some powerful martial arts when he fell into the drainage pit. The heck? What was going on? For a teacher with such incredible understanding of cultivation techniques and battle techniques to fall into the fecal drain while walking. Despite witnessing the sight with their own eyes, they were still stumped. They couldn't comprehend the situation. Sun Laosha, could it be that you are tired of living? After grabbing a few pails of water to wash up, Zhao Wuxing couldn't help but ask. Pu. Upon hearing those words, Mo Hongyi's face immediately turned pale and spurted a mouthful of blood. Your head. Even if I am tired of living, I would at least choose some better location to jump. Have you seen anyone jumping into the fecal drain to commit suicide? Even if I wish to die, I won't degrade myself like that. I've been poisoned, all right? This kind of poison can numb one's mind, leaving one unable to control oneself. Otherwise, do you think that it is possible for me to fall in? It's fortunate that he was using his impersonated identity. Otherwise, if word were to spread around the kingdom that the genius Mo Hongyi had fallen into fecal drain, how could he meet anyone else in the future? Other than drinking a cup of tea at Xianxia's classroom this morning, I didn't do anything else. Despite his dismal, Mo Hongyi didn't dwell on his misfortune. Instead, he slowly inferred and deduced the situation. Upon waking up, he went straight to Xianxia's classroom, and while waiting for him, the only thing he consumed was a cup of tea. Could it be that the tea was poisoned? From the looks of it, that seemed highly probable. However, his arrival at the Liu Laosha's classroom was opportune. It was impossible for the other party to bank his hopes on an uncertain factor. In other words, the other party's target was Master Teacher Xianxia. But who could it be? Who would be so daring as to lay his hands on a master teacher? Wait. Yesterday night. A thought suddenly flashed through his head, and he recalled the three figures he saw in Xianxia's classroom yesterday. All along, he had thought that they were the newly accepted students of Liu Cheng, so he didn't think much of it. Yet, in the 2 hours he spent in the classroom, he didn't see any of the trio. Despite not being Liu Cheng students, they suddenly appeared in his classroom in the middle of the night. Could it be that they are Xianxia's student? Recalling the appearance of one of them, Mo Hongyi's mind suddenly jolted. He remembered where he had met them before. Back when Xianxia was taking the one-star master teacher examination, he had brought his students along. It's these students who allowed him to pass the House of Trust with a trust level of 85, breaking his own record. Back then, overwhelmed by astonishment, he only briefly glanced at their appearance. Thus, he didn't have a clear memory of their appearances. As such, the second time he met them, he only found their faces familiar. However, thinking about it now, that seemed to be the case. Xianxia's student had tried to drug Liu Cheng, and he accidentally took the other party's place. What the heck was this? Who in the world did I offend? It's one thing for those 2 female students of yours to cause such a huge ruckus throughout the capital. But on top of that, your remaining students even sneaked here to poison you. If they wish to poison you, so be it. But what does this have to do with me? Mo Hongyi felt a stifled feeling in his chest, and tears streamed down his face. Due to his talents, his name had induced all through Qianwu Kingdom and even the neighboring kingdoms when he was just 5. No one dared to disrespect him, so when did he suffer such grievous injustice before? Mo! Sun Laosha dropped into the fecal pit. Hearing Meng Dao's words, Xianxia nearly choked on his own saliva. That was Mo Hongyi, a Xianxia realm pinnacle expert, one of the top 10 strongest cultivators in Qianwu Kingdom, the idol of countless young ladies. Yet, he fell into the fecal pit. What was going on? Yes. When I went out, I saw Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changying helping him out. Teacher, you should hurry and take a look. Meng Dao urged him. Zhongxian nodded and he swiftly walked out of the classroom. Walking around 200 meters, he saw a stiff Sun Laoshi lying on the floor, staring at him with a look of anguish. Liu Laoshi, could Sun Laoshi be tired of living? You should hurry up and talk him out of it. Upon seeing Zhongxian, Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changying stood up and clasped his fist. Tired of living. A bizarre expression was on Zhongxian's face. In just 4 to 5 days, he managed to induce a trust level of 40 among his students with his disguised identity. He was currently filled with expectations to pass the 2-star master teacher examination. So how could he possibly be tired of living? Don't worry, let me take a look. Replying so, Zhongxian walked up to Mo Hongyi. At this moment, the other party's face was pale, and a powerful stench was emanating from his body. His lips were quivering, and it seemed as though he was trying to say something but his body wouldn't listen to him. He is poisoned. Even without the Library of Heaven's Path, Zhongxian could immediately tell what was going on. With a glance, he could tell that the other party was poison. And on top of that, it seemed to be rather similar to the effects of the dry earthen powder that someone laced his tea set with. You drank the tea in my classroom. Zhongxian immediately understood the situation. The tea was laced with poison, and Mo Hongyi was acting abnormally. It was obvious that he had drunk the tea. Upon realizing this, Zhongxian was tongue-tied. Dry earthen powder was a grade 2 pinnacle poison. Not only could it induce nausea and diarrhea and leave one completely weak, it would also numb one's nerves, leaving one unable to move one's body properly. This fellow was caught off guard. It was no wonder why he fell into the fecal drain. The poison concocted by poison masters was scentless and tasteless, making it nearly impossible to guard against. On top of that, even Xianxia realm pinnacle experts, despite their strength, had no immunity to their poison either. This was the reason why poison masters were such a feared existence, and few were willing to come into contact with them. Furthermore, given how severe his symptoms were, he seemed to have consumed quite a lot of the poison, probably around an entire bottle. Woo-woo. Upon hearing Zhongxian deducing the matter accurately, Mo Hongyi tried to nod his head, but he was lacking the strength to do so. Thus, he could only whimper in response. Since you're poisoned, then we should find a way to treat you. I have 2 methods. One will require quite a bit of medicinal herbs, and it'll take 1 to 2 days. As for the other, I am confident that I can treat you by today. Which one do you choose? Zhongxian gazed questioningly at Mo Hongyi. Mo Hongyi struggled to put out 2 fingers. The second one, is it? All right. Nodding his head, Zhongxian lifted up his hand. Pa! A powerful slap struck him. Oh! With eyes widened in disbelief, Mo Hongyi fainted. Chapter 369. Kongshu admits a disciple, the student of the sage. Before passing out, Mo Hongyi's heart was filled with boundless resentment. I came to look for you out of goodwill, yet first, I was poisoned by your students, then, I ended up being knocked unconscious by your slap. How in the world did I offend you? Liu Laoshi. Zhao Wuxing and the others were perplexed as well. Ignoring their shocked gazes, Zhongxian took out a few silver needles, and driving his Xianxia, he pierced the needles at several acupoints of the other party. He had read about the dry earthen powder in some books before, so he knew about the symptoms and the treatment method. Under normal circumstances, one would have to concoct the antidote, and the entire process was lengthy and troublesome. However, if he were to use the silver needles and Heaven's Path Xianxia, it could be solved in a matter of moments. However, his Xianxia was extremely pure, so he couldn't allow any outsiders to learn of it. Mo Hongyi was a genius, and his cultivation realm also equaled his own. Instead of being stumped by his questions later on, Zhongxian decided to knock him out first. Before long, more than a dozen of silver needles were pierced into the locations where the bulk of the poison aura was accumulated. Under the cleansing from Heaven's Path Xianxia, The poison was absorbed by the silver needles, causing their surfaces to turn black. Mo Hongyi's pale face slowly alleviated, and traces of redness returned to it. Incredible! Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changyang stared at one another in shock. They had heard of Liu Laoti's amazing feat of solving 19 questions on the Wall of Dilemma consecutively, making him the new guild leader of the Physician Guild. Even so, they didn't have a clear grasp of his abilities. Upon seeing it firsthand now, they finally realized how fearsome the capability of the other party was. Even without conducting a diagnosis, with just a few needles, he was able to heal the incapacitated Sun Laotia. Compared to him, the physicians in the academy seemed like complete amateurs. You too, send Sun Laotia back. He should wake up in about 2 hours. After finishing the acupuncture and confirming that the poison in the other party's body had been expelled, Zhong Xian instructed the duo. Grade 2 pinnacle poison was an extremely fearsome substance. Even if it was cleared from one's body, it would take a while before one could recover from its damage. Of course, if Zhong Xian were to infuse a little more Heaven's Path Xianxia into the other party's body, he should be able to wake up swiftly. However, he would be unable to explain away his Heaven's Path Xianxia that way. Yes. Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changyang quickly lifted Sun Laotia and carried him to his classroom. Someone wants to poison me. Mo Hongyi only happened to be at that spot at the wrong timing and drank that drugged tea. Who is the one trying to kill me? Rubbing his glabella, Zhong Xian was stumped. He was currently Liu Cheng and he didn't remember offending anyone. Who in the world would go through so much trouble to procure such a valuable poison to kill him? Could it be those men from the Physician Guild? Were they unhappy that he had become the new guild leader? Zhong Xian immediately shook his head. Physicians were responsible for healing the injured and treating the sick, and those who choose this occupation carried compassion in their hearts. At the very least, they wouldn't resort to such lowly methods. Putting aside the fact that this dry earthen powder wasn't fatal, more importantly, if he were killed and the headquarters were to investigate this matter, the physician would stand to lose more than he had gained. After pondering for a long moment, Zhong Xian was unable to fathom who it was. Thus, he rubbed his glabella and decided not to be bothered about it anymore. Let's go to Lu Chong's dormitory. With Meng Dao leading the way, the duo soon arrived at the student dormitory. Rather than living with the other students, Lu Chong stayed in a storage room beside the dormitory. A typical room in the Qianwu Academy student dormitory consisted of 4 students. The reason why Lu Chong decided to stay there was because he was afraid of revealing his secrets in his sleep talk. The storage room was small and dirty, but he would be able to guard his secrets here. Lu Chong, why didn't you come to class today? Teacher is here to meet you. Walking to the door, Meng Dao nodded. There was no response. Gudding, Zhong Xian's heart skipped a beat. Could this fellow have truly collapsed from the poison? Without any hesitation, Zhong Xian kicked open the door and walked in. The room was small, and all kinds of miscellaneous objects were placed here. However, it was packed properly, and at the very corner, there was a small bed where one could rest on. No one is here. The place was small, and with a brief glance, Zhong Xian could see that there was no one in here. Teacher. Meng Dao noticed something, and he passed it over to Zhong Xian. It was an envelope, and written on it was to Liu Laotia. From the looks of it, he knew that Zhong Xian would look for him, so he made preparations beforehand. Zhong Xian swiftly tore open the envelope. There was just a line of words, and the meaning behind it was simple. Liu Laotia, pardon your unfilial student, but I can't abandon my vengeance for my parents and kin. Please don't look for me. He went to exact vengeance. Zhong Xian frowned. He knew that Lu Chong was carrying a huge burden in his heart, and there wasn't a single day that he didn't think about exacting vengeance on his enemies. Even so, to rush over as soon as his poison body was successfully cultivated, wasn't he being a little too anxious? Even so, Zhong Xian could understand his impulse. How could a person allow the murderer of his family and relatives to get away scot-free? He had toiled silently for 2 years just for this, and upon seeing his goal right before him, how could he remain seated? Just that, I wonder who his enemy is. Afraid of implicating him, Lu Chong had never revealed who his enemy was. Even though Zhong Xian wanted to look for Lu Chong, he didn't have any idea where he should start from. Pay close attention to the movements in Qianwu Royal City these few days. If anyone is killed or there's any sort of uproar, notify me immediately. Zhong Xian instructed. Those students of his came from distinguished families. Alone, Zhong Xian might be unable to find anything, but through their connections, he should be able to get some news soon. Since Lu Chong was going as far as to feign mute, there was a high probability that his enemy was in the capital, and he possessed a high standing at that. Thus, if he were to make his move, it would surely cause a huge commotion. By then, it shouldn't be a problem to find him. Reckless. Zhong Xian shook his head. He was just thinking of imparting the other party a battle technique after he had finished cultivating his poison body to increase his chances of winning. Who knew that the other party would leave as soon as he was done, not even greeting him at that. Despite his composed nature, he sure acted rashly. Actually, Zhong Xian knew that Lu Chong was doing this because he didn't want to implicate him. If Zhong Xian were to find out about it, he would surely interfere in his matters. Even more so, if he were to meet in danger, there was a high possibility that Zhong Xian would stand up for him. If so, Zhong Xian would be implicated to this matter as well. In order not to bring harm to his respected teacher, he chose to depart by his own, leaving behind just a letter. This fellow may be young, but he sure had a lot of thoughts. Let's return to the classroom first. Sighing, Zhong Xian started walking back toward the classroom. Even though he felt that the fellow was acting too rashly, Zhong Xian felt moved by his gesture. Teacher and student. What makes a teacher? What makes a student? Zhong Xian contemplated as he walked. Ever since his transcension, he had been accepting students and teaching them for his own motives. He was earnest in his job as a teacher, and the knowledge he imparted was also carefully selected with the welfare of his students at heart. But in truth, from the very start until now, he hadn't been able to understand the true meaning behind a teacher. It was just like a pair of young parents. They might shower unconditional love and concern for their child, but the notion of being a parent was still blurred in them. Zhong Xian was only a librarian of a high school in his previous life, so he wasn't a teacher in the truest sense. Even though he had accepted quite a few students, his time with them hadn't been long, and he was plagued with many other affairs as well. Somehow, Lu Chong's actions had unwittingly struck a chord in his heart. Does imparting knowledge make a teacher? Does accepting knowledge make a student? That's not it. Being a teacher isn't that simple, and being a student isn't that easy. The interactions he had with Zhao Yue, Mu Xueqing, Lu Chong, and all of his other students slowly trickled through his mind, and gradually, the fog veiling Zhong Xian's mind gradually cleared. Its camaraderie, its responsibility, its interdependence, its... Boom! After a seemingly long yet short period of time, Zhong Xian suddenly felt everything before him clearing it. It seemed as though something blocked him had been removed, and he felt enlightened. Then, a powerful energy shaped as though countless lines descended from the skies and seeped into Zhong Xian's head, causing his mind to become clearer and richer. Don't allow anyone to interrupt me. I am going into seclusion. Sensing the change in his state of mind, Zhong Xian could no longer hold himself back. After instructing Meng Dao, he walked into the mini tutoring room and sat down. Master-teacher pavilion. Father, I'm speaking the truth. That Liu Cheng Laosha really guided Apothecary Mu to forge a grade 4 pill. Jiang Chen looked at this father, who was seated a short distance away from him. The sight yesterday was too shocking that he had yet to recover from it even now. After looking through numerous books, he realized the impossibility of guiding a 2-star apothecary to forge a grade 4 pill. In any case, it wasn't something that could be explained by possessing absolute knowledge in medicinal herbs. In other words, that Liu Laosha was likely to be an apothecary, an extremely skilled one at that. Okay, I believe you. Pavilion Master Jiang nodded. He already knew that this senior of his possessed pill forging skills far beyond others. Even so, this feat was still beyond his expectations. Father, tell me the truth. Is Liu Laosha related to senior Uncle Zhong? Seeing that his father was nonchalant, Jiang Chen raised his doubts. Jiang Chen had been harboring this doubt since yesterday. Zhongsha was skilled in pill forging, and so was Liu Laoxia. The day that Xianxia disappeared for the 2-star master teacher mission, Liu Laoxia appeared. The coincidences between these two absolute geniuses couldn't help but make him consider this possibility. Seeing that his son was getting doubtful, Pavilion Master Jiang opened his mouth to speak, but he suddenly paused and his face warped in shock. What? He wasn't the only one. Jiang Chen was dumbstruck as well. It's the teacher acknowledgement hall. Pavilion Master Jiang quickly dashed out, and Jiang Chen followed closely behind. After leaving the residence, he realized that all of the master teachers had been alarmed, and they were all headed anxiously for the teacher acknowledgement hall. The teacher acknowledgement hall was where master teachers were given their emblem and officially acknowledged. After passing the examination, the new master teachers were to apply for their emblems here, pay respects to Xianxia, and request for the acknowledgement of the master teacher pavilion. It was similar to how normal clans paid respect to their ancestors as for the question symposium. It was more like a public declaration of one's identity after one was acknowledged in the teacher acknowledgement hall. However, Zhongxian had applied for the 2-star master teacher examination right after passing the first examination, so he hadn't had the chance to come here yet. Hoo. Many master teachers arrived at the teacher acknowledgement hall at the same time, and they lifted their heads to take a look. The innumerable memorial tablets of the predecessors were shaking non-stop, as though an earthquake was going on. Putong. One after another, the memorial tablets fell over. Trembling of myriad tablets. This is Celestial Master Teacher. Pavilion Master Jiang's lips quivered. That isn't just the case. Pavilion Master, look. A master teacher pointed at a direction. Hearing those words, Pavilion Master Jiang and the others immediately looked over. At the center of the room, Xianxia's statue was trembling slightly non-stop as well. This is Xianxia admits a disciple, the student of the sage. Pavilion Master Jiang exclaimed. Chapter 370. Unwilling to become your student, one was required to go through all kinds of examinations to become a master teacher. Only then could he earn the acknowledgement of the master teacher pavilion, obtain the corresponding emblem, and gain the respect of the masses. This was the standard procedure. However, there were also exceptions of geniuses who were born with capabilities way beyond that of the typical master teacher. Given their overwhelming ability, they couldn't be assessed through normal means and naturally, a standard rank couldn't be assigned to them. Take Xianxia as an example. As the founder of the master teacher pavilion, who had the qualifications to test him? Such people possessed natural learning abilities so superb that they could gain the approval of heavens and assume the identity of a master teacher automatically. They were known as celestial master teachers. As a title bestowed by the heavens, heaven master teachers were recognized as master teachers even without undergoing trials and tests. In fact, their standing was higher than that of ordinary master teachers. After all, who dared to defy the will of heaven? Nonetheless, such geniuses only existed in the legends, whereby Xianxia was the only one back then who had reached such a level. Never could they had expected that someone from their guild would succeed. To achieve the well-sought-after standing of celestial master teacher was already fearsome enough, but for Xianxia's statue to be trembling along as well. This made everyone even more frenzied. According to the books, Xianxia had infused a sliver of his consciousness in his statues. As long as an existence whom he was willing to accept as disciple appeared, it would tremble. This was a dictum that was followed strictly by all master teachers. However, such a person had never appeared despite the passing of innumerable years. In other words, no one was able to win Xianxia's recognition to become his student. Who could have thought that at the moment someone was bestowed the title of Celestial Master Teacher, the statue would begin to shake as well? In other words, Xianxia had acknowledged this very person and wanted to accept him as his disciple. A disciple of Xianxia. And that is, the student of the sage. Empyrean Xianxia had accepted many disciples in his lifetime, and rumors had it that they amounted to more than 3,000. However, the numbers had dwindled as more and more of them passed away as time went by. Even the most formidable 9-star master teacher in existence now could only be considered a descendant among their descendants. By becoming the student of sage meant that even 9-star master teachers had to call him elder or even old ancestor. To think that such an incredible existence would appear in their guild. If news of this matter were to spread, the entire world would be thrown into a frenzy. Who was it? Mo Hongyi? Xianxia? Or was it one of them here? The teacher acknowledgement hall of the Master Teacher Pavilion only reflected the news and did not pinpoint the identity of the person. Thus, even though everyone was shocked, they were unable to confirm for sure who the lucky person who won Xianxia's favor was. Even so, the sage's acceptance of a disciple is a huge affair. I'm afraid that it's impossible to hide this matter. Pavilion Master Jiang muttered. Once the matter had been confirmed, the entire world would be informed of it. All kingdoms and Master Teacher Pavilions would receive the news. When that time comes, people from all kingdoms would come to offer their blessings. If that really happened, it would be impossible for that person to hide even if he wanted to. Indeed, our guild will become famous. Incredible. After such a long interval, Xianxia is going to accept a disciple. The eyes of countless master teachers glowed with euphoria. But before they could even finish their sentence, Xianxia's statue suddenly stopped trembling, and with a sudden jolt, "Catcher!" a crack running down the middle of the statue appeared. Upon seeing this sight, everyone was once again stunned. Pavilion Master Jiang's eyes widened to their limits. This is... Xianxia wishes to admit a disciple, but he was rejected. Complete silence. Everyone looked as though they had just seen a ghost. Since a teacher could choose his student, a student could choose his teacher as well. Therefore, even if Xianxia was considered as the teacher of all beings and was respectfully addressed as the Empyrean, he still had to ask for the other party's permission when intending to admit him as his disciple. If the other party was unwilling, he couldn't force himself on the other party either. The shaking of the statue had meant that Xianxia was willing to accept the other party as his disciple, but its subsequent fracture meant that the other party had rejected him. Rejecting the opportunity to become Xianxia's student? The heck? Who in the world is this formidable person? To refuse the offer to become the student of the greatest man in the world, could you be any more arrogant than that? In the small classroom, Zhongxian's mind was operating at high intensity as he tried his best to absorb the unique energy that descended from the skies. These slivers of energy seemed to fuse perfectly with his soul, causing his eyes to become clearer. It is increasing my soul depth. Having read the books in the Master Teacher Pavilion, Zhongxian understood what was going on. This was neither spiritual energy nor zhenqi, this was insight energy. All that wished to become a master teacher had to possess the state of insight will of mind. And to raise one's will of mind soul depth, one had to absorb this kind of unique insight energy. Back then, the enlightenment jade that Zhao Yue's father gave him possessed this kind of energy, and it was through absorbing it that he managed to recover his soul depth back to 0.1. Absorb. Even though Zhongxian was surprised by the sudden appearance of the insight energy, he showed no indication of wanting to stop at all. Since he had attained his previous soul depth level with the help of the golden pages instead of cultivating his soul through the cultivation of a secret manual, he had never seen or absorbed insight energy before. Even so, he knew how precious it was. To master teachers, it was definitely a priceless treasure. TZZZZZ. As Zhongxian absorbed the insight energy that descended from the skies, his soul depth slowly inched forward. After an unknown period of time, his body jolted, and he came to a stop. There's nothing left. Looking around, Zhongxian knew that he had absorbed the final sliver of the energy that had fallen and exhaled deeply. With a flick of his wrist, a stone of insight appeared in his hands. He immediately got into the state of heart of tranquil water. Numbers appeared on the stone. 11.1. Despite absorbing for so long, my soul depth only increased by 1.0. Zhongxian pouted. He had thought that his soul depth would increase significantly after absorbing so much insight energy. At the very least, it would increase by 8 or 10. Yet, betraying his expectations, it only raised by 1.0. This was way too little. If anyone else were to know of his thoughts, they would definitely rush forward to strangle him. To raise a mere 0.1 soul depth, others had to endure all kinds of hell, toiling in extreme cold and heat just to train their mind. In contrast, he had gained this 1.0 soul depth in a single go. Yet he wasn't satisfied. Of course, if they knew that he could raise his soul depth by 5.0 using the golden page, they would definitely think otherwise. Xianxia shook the dismal in his head away and slowly opened his eyes. String after string of insight energy flowed in his eyes, allowing him to peer through the fabric of the world to see its very essence. Glancing at a saber on the weapon rack, he saw a faint apparition striking on a lump of metal, slowly shaping it. With just a single look, he could see the forging process of the saber, its tear, as well as its flaws. Not too far away, behind a table, there was an apparition of a towering tree. The tree was hacked down and worked on by craftsmen. This is... A name appeared in his mind, causing Xianxia's eyes to widen and his fists to clench tightly together. Eye of Insight. It was said that formidable master teachers could expend their soul depth to activate their Eye of Insight to peer into the essence of matter, the strengths and weaknesses of battle techniques as well as cultivation techniques. It was just like how even Zhizuan experts were unable to notice his original face under the human mask of Liu Cheng, but those who possessed the Eye of Insight could see through it in an instant and peer at the original appearance of the person. This was precisely the reason why high-tiered master teachers were fearsome existences. With just a single look, they could see through the problems and ailments of a person, and guide them to resolve it. Despite that, I thought that only 6-star master teachers are able to comprehend this technique. What's going on? After checking the details of the Eye of Insight in the books, Xianxia felt bewildered. According to the records, only 6-star master teachers possess the strength to comprehend this powerful talent. How could he possess it when he wasn't even a 2-star master teacher? Boom! Just as he was pondering over this matter, the sight before him blurred, and his consciousness seemed to have been pulled by an overwhelming strength reminiscent of a vast ocean into a chaotic dimension. Then, an elder with a snow-white beard walked over and a compassionate voice sounded in Xianxia's head. I wish to take you in as my disciple, do you accept? You want to take me in as your disciple? Xianxia was taken aback. Then, he quickly shook his head and said, I refuse. What a joke. Possessing the library of Heaven's Path, he was able to see through the flaws of everything with a look. From his perspective, there was no need for him to acknowledge any teacher at all. Could 4-star to 5-star master teachers conjure theories that surpassed that of the library of Heaven's Path? In terms of cultivation, was there any technique that could surpass the Heaven's Path divine art? Besides, the other party had invaded his mind without any forewarning. Who knew whether he bore malicious intents? It was better to be safe than sorry. After all, it was just a moment ago that someone spiked his tea. Who? As soon as he replied the other party, his body jolted once more, and he realized that he was still in the mini tutoring room. He hadn't gone anywhere, and the sight just now seemed nothing more than a dream. An illusion formation? No, there can't be any formation here. Otherwise, the library of Heaven's Path would have detected it. Could it be something similar to the trust crystal? Xianxia thought. The trust level test was something similar to what he had experienced. One's mental state would be sent into an illusion, and they would undergo various events so as to test their compatibility with their teacher. Could he had just met with something similar? Otherwise, how could some old geezer just appear and ask to take him in as his student? What in the hell is this? If you wish to take me as your disciple, you should at least name yourself. To put me into this kind of illusion without any warning, aren't you being inconsiderate? Harumphing coldly, he immediately labeled that elder as shameless. Of course, if he were to know that the elder was Empyrean Kong Shu, and if he had agreed to become the other party's student, his identity and standing would rise exponentially. Would he spew blood and die straight from disappointment? Even if I don't take the examinations now, I am already a recognized master teacher. No one will be able to refute that. Ignoring that inconsiderate old geezer, Xianxia hid his Eye of Insight and clenched his fists excitedly. After reading through the books, he knew that he had unintentionally comprehended the true meaning of teacher and student, and from there, he was recognized by the heavens, becoming a celestial master teacher. In other words, even if he didn't take any examination, no one would be able to refute his standing as an official master teacher. There was already no need for him to continue his impersonation. However, the title of a celestial master teacher is too conspicuous. I should take the examination as per normal. Anyway, I'm just lacking the final step. Even though Xianxia was excited, he knew that it was best to keep it to himself. Celestial Master Teacher was a huge affair. If word were to spread, he might face quite a lot of trouble. Keeping a low profile was the way to go. No matter what others say, I, Xianxia, have always been a low-profile person. Thank you for listening to Panda Audiobooks. If you love what you hear and want to support my work, check out the PayPal link in the description. Every bit helps. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notifications bell to stay updated with all our latest audiobook chapters. We'll see you in the next one.